Welcome to Tales in the Dark. I know many of you enjoy relaxing with these videos, so I recommend turning down the volume until my voice is barely audible. It'll make the experience even more soothing. Before you close your eyes, let me know in the comments where you're listening from. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you and enjoy listening. Story 1. The gentle hum of the street lamp outside painted elongated shadows in my room as I absent-mindedly scrolled through my phone. The neighborhood lay in a hushed stillness, a tranquility that bordered on eerie. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught the corner of my eye. A figure stood in my yard, just beyond my window. My breath hitched in my chest. It was Mr. Holloway, my neighbor. The very same man whose funeral I had solemnly attended last Thursday. I recalled the weight of that day, the somber gray clouds mirroring the mournful atmosphere. His wife, utterly shattered, their 47 years of marriage abruptly severed. The day after, I had offered her a casserole, observing her drift through the empty house like a specter, tracing memories in the photographs and trinkets they had cherished together over the years. Now, as I gazed through the window, the figure stood, unmoving. The soft golden glow of the street lamp enveloped his familiar outline in a gentle halo. His silver hair shimmered in the light, his worn cardigan reminiscent of countless moments spent tending to his beloved rose garden. A weight settled upon me, as if draped in a cloak of surrealism. Though my rational mind whispered dreams, the tangible sensations around me contradicted it. The cool touch of my phone, the gentle whir of the ceiling fan, the scent of chamomile tea wafting from my nightstand. Reality was too vivid, too palpable to be a mere dream. Mr. Holloway raised his hand, a deliberate, unhurried gesture. Not menacing, but a familiar wave he had bestowed upon me each morning for the 12 years I had lived next door. A deep sorrow rather than fear gripped my chest. His countenance exuded peace, bathed in the soft glow of the streetlight. Drawn inexplicably, I rose from my bed, compelled towards the window by an unseen force. The hardwood floor, cool beneath my feet, guided me closer. Approaching, I discerned details previously unseen from afar. His image seemed to flicker like a mirage, the roses in his garden swaying in an imperceptible breeze behind him. Standing face to face with the glass, I lifted my hand in response. Mr. Holloway's smile, that welcoming smile from years past, greeted me once more. From his cardigan pocket, he retrieved a small, glinting object. My breath misted the window as I leaned in for a closer look. A key. The spare key to my house, entrusted to him long ago for emergencies. Forgotten amidst the raw grief of his wife's mourning. Placing the key gently on my windowsill, he retreated a step. The roses behind him seemed to radiate an inner light, their petals swaying in an unseen current. Observing as he turned and strolled towards the garden, his movements fluid and graceful as they hadn't been in his final days. Pausing amidst the roses, he cast one final glance back. In that fleeting moment, understanding dawned on me. His intent was not to instill fear, but to bid a proper farewell, returning what was never his to keep. Amidst his cherished roses, his form began to fade, translucent like morning mist under the sun's gentle caress. I lingered by the window, the key resting on the outer sill. The roses continued their spectral dance, the air pregnant with stillness. On quiet nights like this, a subtle fragrance of roses sometimes drifts through my window, even in the winter's icy grip when the garden lies dormant. I've kept the night's encounter to myself, unshared with Mrs. Holloway. Yet every morning, as I depart for work, my gaze invariably drifts towards their house, towards the rose garden. And occasionally, just occasionally, I raise my hand in a tender wave, continuing a ritual even death couldn't sever completely. Story 2. The attic exuded the scent of aged wood and dust as I delved into the sea of forgotten treasures boxed up there. Amidst the cobweb-covered relics, my fingers brushed against it, my grandmother's antique music box. Its wooden exterior bore the marks of time, yet the intricate carvings remained untouched by decay. It had been neglected, untouched by my hand for years. On a night thick with the darkness that only 3 a.m. can bring, the ethereal melody of the music box's lullaby drifted through the stillness of my room. I can recall the moment vividly, for I was wide awake, perched in my reading chair by the window, observing raindrops race down the glass pane. The soft tap 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 of the rain had been my sole companion during yet another sleepless night. As the music whispered into existence, it was so faint that I questioned my senses. Was it a figment of my sleep-deprived imagination, the blurred line between reality and dreams playing tricks on my mind? The tune was familiar, yet different, as if time had slowed its tempo, each note lingering in the air like honey dripping from a spoon. It carried with it the weight of years gone by, of memories half forgotten, of something just beyond reach. That day, I had placed the music box on my dresser beside an old photograph of my grandmother. In the soft glow of my reading lamp, the box cast a shadow that danced upon the wall, swaying gently with the flickering flame. The brass key remained untouched. I was certain of this, as I had attempted to wind it earlier, only to find the mechanism stubborn and unyielding. Rising from my chair, my bare feet sinking into the plush carpet, I moved deliberately towards the dresser. Each step was deliberate, unhurried, the aged floorboards beneath the carpet whispering their ancient secrets with each shift of weight. The music continued its tender serenade, a melody my grandmother used to hum while baking on lazy Sunday afternoons. As I drew closer, a peculiar sight greeted me in the mirror's reflection. The roses carved into the music box's lid seemed to stir and shift, their petals unfurling in a mesmerizing dance. Yet when I turned my gaze directly upon the box, the roses remained frozen in time, their wooden beauty unchanged. The air around the music box carried a chill, akin to the cool breath that escapes when opening an old cupboard. A tingling sensation crept along my fingertips as they neared the lid of the box. The melody softened, almost hesitating, as if acknowledging my presence in the room. When my hand finally made contact with the box, the wood radiated warmth, a stark contrast to the coolness enveloping it. Within, the heart of the music box whirred steadily, though the missing dancer, long broken off, should have been twirling to the tune. In the mirror's reflection, elusive movements flickered like shadows, a silent dance accompanying the enchanting melody. The fragrances of cinnamon and vanilla, the comforting warmth of fresh bread baking in my grandmother's kitchen, wafted through the room. It was inexplicable, yet undeniable, a sensory tapestry that brought tears to my eyes. I stood there, transfixed, as the music box continued its impossible symphony, memories flooding back with each passing note. Beneath the melody, I could almost hear my grandmother's voice, a soft whisper of comfort and love, a language of the heart. The rain outside fell in harmony with the music, or perhaps the music had synchronized with the rain's gentle cadence. Time stretched and shifted as I stood there, the clock on the wall stubbornly displaying 3 a.m. for what felt like an eternity. The music box spun its tale, weaving a melody that seemed to span the quiet hours, each note a thread in the fabric of the night. I found myself swaying, lost in reminiscences of lazy afternoons in my grandmother's kitchen, her gentle dance a prelude to the rising of fresh bread. As the melody gradually slowed, it did not wind down in the conventional manner of a music box. Instead, each note dissolved into the air, akin to sugar melting into warm tea. The final note lingered, fading imperceptibly until it was no more. The scents of cinnamon and vanilla dissipated with the music, leaving behind only the crisp fragrance of rain. The music box now sat silent, unchanged from its initial descent from the attic. The brass key remained motionless, catching the soft lamplight in its weathered embrace. I made no attempt to wind the music box again after that fateful night. Sometimes, on evenings when sleep eluded me and rain tapped against the window, I would find myself drawn to my reading chair, gazing at the music box. In the mirror's reflection, at the edge of my vision, the carved roses would appear to stir, their wooden petals unfurling in a silent waltz. A familiar warmth would envelop the room, a ghostly echo of my grandmother's presence. I've come to realize that certain enigmas are not meant to be unraveled. They are meant to be savored, experienced in the hushed moments between wakefulness and slumber. My grandmother's music box guards its mysteries, and I, in turn, keep watch, awaiting those rare instances when the boundary between memory and reality grows thin enough for a lullaby to slip through. Story 3. The night draped itself over the office like a heavy cloak, the only sound the gentle thrum of the fluorescent lights casting their soft glow. My eyes, heavy with fatigue, drifted to the security feed out of habit. The lobby appeared deserted, except for a figure standing near the entrance, his gaze fixed upward towards the camera. A chill danced down my spine as I leaned in, heart quickening its pace. It was me, my own face staring back at me from the screen. The ventilation system whispered a lullaby as I scrutinized the image before me. My doppelganger stood motionless, clad in a dark suit identical to mine in every way. Every feature mirrored mine, the slight crook in my nose from an old injury, the faint scar above my right eyebrow, even the way my hair fell to the left. Raindrops began their gentle descent outside, adding a soothing rhythm of white noise to the scene. The soft blue light of the security monitor bathed my surroundings as I watched, captivated. The man made no sudden movements, no menacing gestures. He simply stood there, his expression one of quiet inquisitiveness that I often saw in my own reflection. Time seemed to stretch into an eternal moment. I marveled at how the marble floors of the lobby reflected the dim night, creating pools of amber light around his polished shoes. It was a sight reminiscent of a master painter's play with light and darkness. My fingers absently traced patterns on the desk as I pondered my next move. Logic urged me to contact security, yet an unexplainable force held me back. There was a deep-seated familiarity beyond the physical resemblance. The way he carried himself, patient and contemplative, struck a chord within me. The steady tick of the wall clock marked the passage of time. Outside, city lights blurred by the rain formed shifting halos, dancing like ethereal beings. My double remained unmoving, but I noticed nuances previously overlooked. His suit differed slightly from mine, a subtle sheen hinting at a fabric from another time or place. A distant rumble of thunder heralded a shift in the air. Slowly he raised his hand, palm outstretched not in menace, but in greeting. The gesture stirred a childhood memory of waving at my own reflection, testing the boundaries of reality in the mirror. Despite the peculiarity, a warmth blossomed within me. The aged wooden floors groaned beneath my weight as I approached the door, reminiscent of my grandmother's home where I once fancied alternate versions of myself living behind mirrors. She nurtured my fantasies, hinting at the vast mysteries the universe held beyond our grasp. Each step down the hallway felt like a dream, the soft carpet cushioning my path. Green emergency lights pulsed in harmony with my heartbeat, guiding me towards an inevitable encounter. As I reached the lobby, the glass doors parted soundlessly. The air was heavy with the scent of rain on hot pavement. My double stood before me, our breaths mingling in the silence. His eyes mirrored the same existential questions that had haunted me for a lifetime. Questions of purpose, identity, and the essence of consciousness itself. In that moment of wordless communion, we were two souls converging in time and space. The ambient light painted our identical shadows on the floor, merging and separating with the dance of the clouds outside. No words were spoken, for words felt inadequate in the face of such profound recognition. As night deepened, the line between observer and observed blurred. I noticed that his movements mirrored mine with eerie precision, as if we were intertwined in a delicate waltz of existence. It became unclear who was the reflection and who was the reality, who had arrived first in this liminal space between dream and wakefulness. The security camera's red light blinked like a distant star, capturing our mirrored dance. In its lens, we appeared as perfect duplicates, but I knew we were more like echoes, each shaped by the journey through time and space to this singular moment. The true nature of my double, whether a creation of my subconscious, a glitch in reality, or something beyond comprehension, remained shrouded in uncertainty. And in that uncertainty, a strange comfort settled upon me. Some mysteries are meant to linger unanswered, floating in the delicate balance between sleep and wakefulness, between one breath and the next. Now, when I toil through late nights in the office, a flicker of movement sometimes catches my eye on the security feed, but I choose not to scrutinize the figure that may linger in the lobby's shadows. Some reflections are best left undisturbed, some enigmas allowed to drift in the gentle current of the unknown. Story 4. A hushed night, a glass of wine, and the solace of my sofa. That was all I craved. My phone hummed with a notification. One unread voicemail. A perplexed expression crossed my face. I hadn't heard the phone ring. I tapped play, and a chill swept through me. "Darling," the voice murmured, "it's Mom." The familiar cadence of her voice enveloped me like a gentle shower. I shut my eyes, allowing the feeling to seep into my being. The faint creak of my leather couch beneath me seemed distant, almost surreal. The wine glass quivered in my grasp, sending soft ripples across its crimson surface. "I know it's been a while," her voice persisted, carrying that familiar inflection I cherished from Sunday morning chats. "I've been thinking of you, of the garden we once nurtured together." The steady ticking of my grandfather clock measured time as I listened, each moment stretching longer than the last. Outside, autumn leaves whispered against my window, a delicate echo to her words. My thoughts wandered to those spring days, her hands soiled with rich earth, teaching me the names of flowers I could still recite in my slumber. The fragrance of soil and growth seemed to fill my living space, mingling with the scent of my wine. The lamp beside me cast a warm light that now felt cooler. "Remember the rose bushes?" her voice inquired, softer now. "The ones that bloomed even in winter?" I remembered. White roses that defied the frost, their petals capturing moonlight like fallen stars. We had planted them together the year before she passed, and strangely they still blossomed every winter, long after the garden had fallen into disrepair. The voicemail continued, but a shift occurred. Beneath her words, I detected other sounds, the distant toll of bells perhaps, or wind through empty corridors. The quality of her voice changed too, becoming more ethereal, as if she spoke through layers of silk. "I want you to know," she said, "that the flowers still thrive where we left them. Not just in the garden, but in all the places we sowed memories together." The grandfather clock's ticking seemed to slow, each sound now deep and resonant like a heartbeat in an empty cathedral. My wine glass reflected the lamplight, casting ruby shadows on my wall. They swayed gently, though no breeze stirred in the room. The darkness beyond my windows felt softer somehow, more velvety than void. I noticed my own breathing had slowed to match the rhythm of her words. "There's something significant," her voice continued, growing distant, yet somehow more intimate. "Something I never shared with you about the roses." A pause lingered between her words, filled with the sound of what might have been rain, or perhaps tears falling on ancient wood. They bloom when someone needs to remember. The message persisted, but now her voice merged with other sounds. The whisper of turning pages in forgotten books, the gentle sigh of wind through garden paths, the soft creak of old porch swings. Each sound carried memories. Summer evenings reading together, autumn strolls collecting leaves, winter nights sharing tea and tales. "The garden knows," she whispered, her voice now like moonlight on water. "It retains everything we cultivated there. Not just flowers, but moments, secrets, dreams." The lamplight dimmed slightly, though I had not touched the switch. The shadows in my room seemed to breathe. As her voice faded, I noticed subtle details I hadn't observed before. The wine in my glass reflected impossible gardens. The ticking clock measured time and memories rather than minutes. The darkness beyond my windows held the soft glow of winter roses. "Seek me in the blooms," were her parting words, gentle as falling petals. Some flowers only unfurl in moonlight, and some memories only surface in dreams. The message concluded, but the ensuing silence felt pregnant with potential. I sat there, allowing the quiet to envelop me like a familiar embrace. My phone displayed no trace of the voicemail when I checked. The clock ticked on. Outside, leaves continued their autumnal waltz against my window. Yet something had shifted, as if the world had tilted slightly, unveiling new perspectives on familiar shadows. Later that night, as I readied for bed, the scent of roses wafted through my home. Winter was approaching, and somewhere in a neglected garden, white petals were beginning to unfold beneath an unseen moon. I smiled, comprehending now that certain messages aren't meant to be archived in phones, but in the tranquil spaces between heartbeats, where memories blossom eternal. Story 5. The cool night air carried whispers of pine and earth as I nestled into my tent, the flickering campfire casting dancing shadows on the fabric. Alone in the embrace of the woods, the tranquility wrapped around me like a comforting shroud. When morning painted the sky with soft hues, I unzipped my tent, only to be met with a chilling sight. Footprints marred the earth, leading straight to my tent's threshold, but they were not mine. Kneeling to inspect them, my breath mingled with the crisp air, forming ethereal clouds. The footprints, slightly smaller than my own, were imprinted deeply into the soil, as if the owner had stood motionless for an eternity. Dew had collected in the imprints, creating miniature pools that mirrored the sky above. The forest held its breath, the only sound the gentle rustle of leaves and distant bird songs. My once vibrant campfire had dwindled to gray ashes, stirred occasionally by the morning breeze. A delicate mist wove through the trees, casting a dreamlike haze that blurred the line between reality and reverie. Tracing the footprints back with my gaze, I saw that they emerged from a cluster of tall ferns near my campsite's edge. What struck me was not just their presence, but their purposeful path, leading directly to where I had slept, devoid of the aimless wanderings of a curious traveler or forest creature. As I brewed my morning coffee over a crackling fire, a sense of being observed lingered in the air. The woods seemed transformed, not menacing, but sentient. Shadows deepened between the trees, taking on a significance that eluded me. While my hands mechanically prepared the coffee, my thoughts drifted back to the previous night. A faint humming had reached my ears as I read by flashlight, dismissed as mere wind whispers. Now, bathed in the morning glow, doubt crept in, questioning the source of that haunting melody. The aroma of coffee mingled with wood smoke, anchoring me in the present. Holding the warm mug, I noticed another peculiarity about the footprints. They only led towards my tent, vanishing at its entrance, as if their creator had dissolved into thin air. Sipping the coffee, its warmth spreading through me, I observed the forest basking in the gentle beams of sunlight filtering through the canopy, illuminating dancing particles of dust and pollen. The ancient secrets held by the woods felt palpable, as if whispered by the rustling leaves and creaking branches. A closer inspection revealed delicate wildflowers beside the enigmatic footprints, blooms of white and purple forming a perfect circle around my tent, a silent testament to an unseen presence. Rational explanations danced at the edges of my thoughts, a sleepwalking camper, overlooked tracks in my fatigue, but the inexplicable aura lingered, refusing to be dispelled. Reluctantly dismantling my camp, each sound carried weight, each sight significance, as if the forest itself held a secret it longed to share. Before departing, I captured images of the footprints and flowers, knowing deep down that the essence of the experience eluded the grasp of a mere photograph. The rising sun dispersed the mist, but the awe and curiosity remained, etched into my memory. Just as I prepared to leave, a final detail halted me in my tracks. Nestled by my tent's entrance, where the footprints ceased, lay a single feather, its iridescence shimmering like a shifting rainbow. Without hesitation, I tucked it away, its mysteries calling to me. Sometimes, even now, I retrieve that feather, watching it gleam in the light, transporting me back to that mystical morning in the woods. The footprints may have faded with time, but their enigma endures, a reminder of the boundless wonders that dwelled just beyond our understanding. No rational explanation ever surfaced for that morning's events, and perhaps that was as it should be. Some mysteries are not meant to be unraveled, but carried as whispers of the extraordinary, like the iridescent feather in my pocket, a token of a world veiled in mystique and magic. Story 6. The ascent up the mountain unfolded in tranquility, with the autumnal foliage adorning the path in a tapestry of red and gold. The cabin, a hidden gem nestled among the trees, matched its description perfectly. Rustic, secluded, a sanctuary for a brief escape. However, upon stepping inside, a peculiar aura enveloped me. A duffel bag by the entrance, a half-empty cup of coffee resting on the table, and a solitary, chilling note perched on the bed. Don't let him in. Standing there, my own belongings in hand, I inhaled the crisp mountain air seeping through the slightly ajar window. The warmth lingering in the coffee cup hinted at a recent presence, a faint swirl of cream adorning its surface. Someone had been here, very recently indeed. Although my rational mind nudged me to contact the rental company, an inexplicable force held me in place, a compelling need to unravel the mystery shrouding this place. The cabin itself exuded a sense of history, its exposed wooden beams and weathered stone walls whispering tales of times long past. A gentle breeze meandered through the room, carrying the fragrant essence of pine and the promise of impending rain. The floorboards murmured softly underfoot as I ventured further into the space, each step deliberate, as if treading upon hallowed ground. In the kitchen, traces of the previous occupant lingered. An open notebook lay on the counter, its pages filled with hurried scribbles that grew increasingly erratic towards the end. Mundane musings on weather and wildlife gave way to unsettling entries in the final pages. The knocking commences at midnight, always at midnight, yet no one is there. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm amber glow within the cabin, I brewed a fresh cup of tea, the familiar ritual a comforting anchor amidst the growing unease. The contents of the duffel bag appeared ordinary: clothes, toiletries, a dog-eared novel, painting the picture of a typical getaway, save for that cryptic note and the haunting diary excerpts. As night descended, I found myself drawn to the expansive window facing the forest. The trees swayed rhythmically in the dimming light, casting intricate shadows that danced across the floor. The allure of solitude enveloped me, the isolation feeling almost protective, a shield from the outside world. Yet, as I gazed at my reflection in the window, a disquieting realization dawned. In the glassy surface, a subtle movement caught my eye, a shadowy figure, incongruent with the fading light, lurking where the empty living room should be. Whirling around, I found nothing but an empty space, yet the air grew dense, pregnant with a palpable tension, as if the cabin itself held its breath. Turning back to the notebook, I sought answers, yearning to decipher the enigma that had unsettled the previous guest. The entries chronicled a descent from serenity to paranoia, recounting phantom footsteps, fleeting shapes outside the windows, and a spectral presence lurking among the trees. But it was the description of a peculiar scent that seized my attention. Earthy, ancient, ominous. It lingers only in his presence. That same scent now enveloped me, mingling with the rising wind and the pitter-patter of rain against the windows. Each raindrop orchestrated a symphony of creaks and groans within the cabin, blurring the line between natural sounds and the unknown. As I ventured towards the bedroom, a chill snaked down the hallway, the note on the bed still bearing witness to the previous guest's unease. Scratches marred the window frame, a silent plea etched into the wood, a barrier against unseen forces. As midnight loomed, I found myself ensconced in the living room, the rain weaving intricate patterns on the windows. The words of the previous guest echoed in my mind. The knocking starts at midnight. Uncertain whether to stay awake, an inexplicable force held me in thrall, resisting the call of sleep. The first knock resonated not from the doors or windows, but within the very walls, a gentle tap, an echo of something unseen drawing closer. The scent of damp earth intensified, distorting my reflection in the window as if viewed through rippling waters. What followed defied explanation. The knock ceased, replaced by a profound silence that enveloped me, pressing against my senses. In the window's reflection, I glimpsed what the previous guest had seen, a figure shrouded in shadows, barely discernible from the darkness itself. Yet, as I turned to confront the apparition, nothing remained save for the lingering scent of earth and leaves. I never contacted the rental company. An inkling told me they would have no record of the previous guest. 3 nights I spent in that cabin, the midnight knocks a haunting ritual, yet I heeded the note's warning. I denied him entry. Whether him referred to the shadowy figure or something beyond comprehension remains a mystery. Strangely, fear eluded me, replaced by a profound tranquility, as if I had become a part of the cabin's enigmatic tale. At times, I ponder if the previous guest lingers still, a spectral guardian watching through the windows, leaving cryptic messages for future visitors. And occasionally, when catching my reflection in a window's embrace, I question if I ever truly departed from that cabin, or if I now dwell within its mysteries, a silent observer of its secrets. Story 7. The gentle flicker of the TV screen cast a soft glow across the shadowed room. I had dozed off watching an old movie, the screen now a deep, velvety blackness, or so I thought. Suddenly a flicker, a distortion, and the screen came to life once more. A live feed, grainy and eerie, displayed a scene that sent chills down my spine, a view of my own bedroom. And there, at the foot of my bed, stood a figure, motionless, shrouded in darkness against the moonlit backdrop filtering through the window. The quality of the image resembled ancient security footage, with a ghostly greenish tint that lent an otherworldly air to the scene. Rain tapped gently against the window panes, its rhythm blending with the silence to create a soothing white noise that enveloped the room in a surreal embrace. As I sat frozen on the couch, every breath suspended, I became acutely aware of the subtle sounds around me. The quiet creak of the house settling, the hushed whisper of wind slipping through the cracks, and the steady thrum of my own heartbeat. Yet what truly unnerved me was not just the presence of the figure, but the impossible perspective of the footage. It seemed to originate from the doorway of my bedroom, even though I always closed the door before retiring for the night. I had drifted off while watching an old noir film, the remote still resting loosely in my hand. With a trembling finger, I pressed the power button. Nothing changed. The image remained fixed, the figure in my bedroom making a slight, unnaturally fluid movement that sent shivers down my spine. The rain outside intensified, its patter a soothing backdrop to this enigmatic spectacle. The scent of rain-soaked earth wafted in through the cracked window, mingling with the familiar aroma of aged books and polished wood that defined my sanctuary. Mesmerized, I found myself drawn into the screen, unable to tear my gaze away. The figure, with a grace that defied reality, turned toward my dresser, where my grandmother's antique music box lay dormant. With a fluid motion, they wound the mechanism, and the room filled with the delicate strains of a lullaby from my childhood, a melody that tugged at memories buried deep within. The music, accompanied by the gentle rain, created an ethereal ambience that wrapped me in a strange sense of calm amidst the inexplicable. I watched as the figures swayed in time to the haunting melody, their movements hypnotic and oddly familiar. And as the lullaby continued its enchanting refrain, I began to notice subtle anomalies in the room. The books on the shelf arranged in cryptic patterns, the rocking chair moving ever so slightly, the shadows cast by the moonlight dancing in defiance of logic. Slowly, the figure pivoted to face the TV screen, facing me with features obscured by shadow. Yet instead of fear, a profound sense of recognition washed over me. Their stance, the tilt of their head, the fluidity of their movements, all felt intimately known, as though gazing upon a forgotten reflection of myself. The weight of sleep descended upon my eyelids, the lullaby lulling me deeper into a trance. The rain outside continued its gentle symphony, blending with the figure's dreamlike dance in a seamless union. The boundaries between the screen and reality blurred, the static of the image melding with the darkness of the living room. When I blinked open my heavy lids, sunlight flooded the room, the TV screen now truly blank. Ascending the stairs to my bedroom, the echo of my grandmother's lullaby lingered in my mind. Everything appeared unchanged from the night before, save for one detail. On the dresser, the music box stood open, its winding mechanism spent, as if it had played throughout the night. On restless nights when sleep eludes me, I find myself drawn back to the TV, a silent witness to the mysterious dance that unfolds. The rain often accompanies these moments, and occasionally, amid the static and shadows, a familiar figure emerges, swaying to a melody that straddles the realms of memory and dream. I no longer switch off the TV. Perhaps I cannot. Perhaps I choose not to. In the grainy feed, a part of me continues to dance to my grandmother's lullaby, safeguarding memories that refuse to fade into obscurity. Story 8. Inhabiting an aged residence unveils a tapestry of surprises. Creaking floorboards, shadowy corridors, locked doors without keys. Yet my curiosity piqued when I chanced upon a concealed portal in the basement, a peculiar sensation creeping over me. Absent from the blueprint, the door exuded an icy aura, sending a shiver down my spine. Leaning in, I strained to hear, detecting movement from the other side. The basement exuded an aura distinct from the rest of the house. While upstairs basked in the warmth of wooden floors and sunlit windows, the basement lingered in perpetual coolness, its rough stone walls swallowing both light and sound. One evening, amidst the patter of rain outside, as I sorted through boxes, my hand brushed against an unusual ridge in the wall. Initially dismissing it as a flaw in the aged stonework, my fingers traced its outline, revealing a perfect rectangle. The stone felt different here, smoother, as if polished by a myriad of touches. A peculiar fragrance lingered in the air, reminiscent of old books and dried blooms. Hours slipped away as I scrutinized that section of wall, my flashlight casting elongated shadows that danced across the stone. Details emerged the longer I gazed. Weathered symbols had been etched into the frame, almost imperceptible, akin to the markings my grandmother used to sketch in her garden to mark the passage of seasons. That night, the door invaded my dreams. Soft murmurs emanated from behind it, like ethereal conversations carried on the breeze. The voices conversed in an unfamiliar tongue, yet their essence felt oddly familiar, akin to a half-remembered lullaby from childhood. Come morning, armed with tools, I descended into the basement once more. The air near the door was noticeably colder, my breath materializing in delicate wisps that hung suspended in my flashlight's beam. As I labored, the house seemed to hold its breath. The usual creaks and settling noises ceased, replaced by a pregnant hush. By happenstance, I unearthed the mechanism, a slight depression in the stone, yielding under gentle pressure. The door parted not with a creak but a sigh, exhaling an earthy, age-old scent. Beyond lay a narrow passage, its walls sleek, unlike anything else in the basement. Yet it was the darkness within that captivated me. Not the ordinary absence of light in an unlit room, but a profound, velvety darkness. My flashlight's beam softened at its edges, as if the darkness itself gently resisted illumination. Subtle shifts manifested in the house post-discovery of the door. Objects subtly rearranged themselves when unobserved. Temperature fluctuated in peculiar rhythms, creating pockets of warmth and chill that meandered through the rooms like unseen currents. Most intriguing were the sounds. During the late hours, amidst the hush outside, soft movements echoed from the basement. Not the abrupt, startling sounds of settling structures, but gentle, deliberate motions akin to someone carefully arranging furniture below. The door seeped into my dreams as well. I wandered through interminable corridors that seemed linked to the basement passage. In these dreams, the air was forever cool and redolent, bearing whispered dialogues just beyond comprehension. Upon awakening, a sense of engaging in significant discussions lingered, though the specifics eluded me. At times, seated near the door in quiet contemplation, fleeting movements flickered at the edge of my vision. Yet upon turning, only stillness greeted me, though the air retained a ghostly warmth like a trace of a recent presence. I began documenting my findings in a journal. The temperature near the door followed patterns seemingly synchronized with lunar phases. On certain nights, the symbols etched into the frame appeared to shift, forming new configurations that vanished upon direct observation. What fascinated me most was the door's responsiveness to my presence. Approaching with curiosity elicited a gentle warmth in the air, almost inviting. However, if approached with trepidation or suspicion, the temperature plummeted and shadows deepened. I refrained from fully opening the door or crossing the threshold. An intuition whispered that it wasn't about entry, but a boundary, a reminder of the enigmatic facets of our world, meant to be acknowledged and revered, not unraveled. Months have passed since, and I've grown fond of the door's company. It stands as a silent companion, a testament to the unfathomable depth of reality. On tranquil evenings, I sit nearby with a tome and a steaming cup of tea, attuned to the soft murmurs that drift through the stone. The whispers persist in their eternal dialogue, and though their words elude me still, I sense a gradual comprehension dawning within me. While the blueprint remains stowed away in an upper drawer, recounting one version of the house's tale through neat lines and measurements, here in the basement, within the cool, hushed dark, I've discovered spaces that defy documentation, realms where mystery and solace intertwine like old confidants sharing secrets beneath the veil of night. Story 9. The night lay shrouded in a blanket of silence, broken only by the steady tick-tock of the clock. Normally my faithful dog would be nestled at my feet, a picture of serenity. But tonight, a change had taken hold. Max stood rigid, his fur bristling, fixated on the shadowed corner of my room, his lips curled in a silent snarl, a stark contrast to his usual gentle demeanor. My heart quickened in my chest, a sense of unease creeping over me. Despite my rational mind's insistence, I couldn't shake the feeling that something lingered in that darkness. Max, a golden retriever with warm brown eyes and a perpetually wagging tail, had become a sentinel of sorts. It began subtly, his attention drawn to that same corner during our quiet moments together. At first, I dismissed it as mere coincidence, attributing it to the creaks and groans of an old house settling. The whisper of wind through autumn trees outside painted dancing shadows on my walls, while the warm glow of my bedside lamp failed to pierce the deep darkness of that corner. As I reached out to soothe Max, I felt the tension in his muscles, the rapid beat of his heart beneath my touch. His breath came in shallow gasps, a stark contrast to the tranquility of the night. The clock's rhythmic cadence filled the room, a familiar echo in the stillness. The scent of lavender wafted from the diffuser, a failed attempt to usher in sleep that now felt elusive. Night after night, the ritual repeated itself. Max stood guard, his gaze unwavering on that seemingly ordinary corner. Growls and whimpers punctuated the silence, signaling his internal conflict. I noticed subtle changes in the room, a chill that lingered near that spot, plants that withered despite sunlight and care. I began documenting Max's behavior, tracing a pattern that aligned with the phases of the moon. The scratching of my pen against paper became a comforting soundtrack, a distraction from the palpable silence that emanated from the corner. With each passing evening, the room seemed to shift subtly. Books moved on their own, the dream catcher swayed without a breeze, all while Max remained steadfast in his vigil. His presence became a lifeline, grounding me in the face of the unknown. In the soft glow of lamplight, I found solace in our shared watchfulness. The corner morphed into a nexus of mystery, a threshold between worlds. Max and I stood as guardians, united in our silent duty. As I sit here now, his steady gaze still fixed on that enigmatic space, a sense of peace settles over me. Some enigmas are not meant to be unraveled, but merely observed, and in that realization, I discover a strange tranquility. My dog's unwavering vigil over the corner remains, a reminder of the unseen forces at play in our world. And perhaps in his steadfast gaze lies the key to understanding the mysteries that dwell in the shadows of the night. Story 10. In the beginning, I thought it was mere forgetfulness. Notes scattered around my home, reminders as simple as buy milk and lock the door. Innocuous prompts that could easily have slipped my mind. But then, one fateful morning, a new note awaited me on my pillow. Wake up, he's inside. The soft tendrils of morning light danced through my room, painting gentle patterns on the walls. I picked up the note, feeling its familiar texture, as if it held secrets known only to me. The handwriting, a mirror image of my own, flowed effortlessly as if it had always been a part of me. Living alone in this ancient house, I had grown accustomed to its whispers and creaks, a silent understanding between us. Every sound, every shadow had its own story. Yet, a subtle shift had begun to unravel the tranquility that once enveloped me. It started with the appearance of notes, unassuming at first, nudging me towards forgotten tasks. I brushed them off as products of my tired mind, a byproduct of late-night writing sessions that blurred the lines between reality and dreams. Each day brought a new message in unexpected places, guiding me through my routines with eerie precision. Soon, the subtle alterations in my surroundings became undeniable. Books shifted on shelves, the warmth of a recently occupied chair lingering in the air, scents long dormant coming to life. The ticking of an old clock became my constant companion as I delved into these mysteries. Keeping a journal became my solace, a record of the uncanny occurrences that befell me. And yet, as I penned down each detail, I noticed a subtle transformation in my own handwriting, a shift imperceptible yet undeniable. One evening, bathed in the golden hues of dusk, I found myself surrounded by notes, each bearing a piece of me on disparate scraps of paper. Despite their varied origins, they carried a sense of familiarity that sent shivers down my spine. Patterns emerged in the timing of their arrival, always in the quietude between night and daybreak, when the world holds its breath. The house itself seemed to respond to my growing awareness, temperatures fluctuating, mirrors holding on to reflections a moment too long. In the midst of this silent dance, I found myself conversing with unseen forces, the notes becoming a dialogue between me and a presence I could not fathom. They were not menacing, but rather exuded a protective aura, a guardian veiled in secrecy. And so, last night, I dared to leave a message of my own, a plea for clarity. Who are you? This morning, I awoke to find it replaced by a cryptic reply. You know who I am. You've always known. As twilight descends and shadows envelop my sanctuary, a realization dawns upon me. The handwriting, the intimate knowledge, the gentle guidance, they all point to a truth I've long evaded. Perhaps these notes are not from a stranger, but a fragment of myself waiting to be rediscovered. The house sighs around me, its ancient timbers shifting in the encroaching darkness. Another note materializes by my side, a silent messenger urging me towards a forgotten truth. Time to remember. And in this moment, as the world fades into dusk, I am finally ready to listen. Story 11. The faint aroma of aged wood still hung in the hallway as I flicked off the lights, signaling the end of the day. The house settled into a hushed tranquility, the wooden floor whispering soft creaks under my weight. Just as I was about to retire to my bedroom, a sound halted me in my tracks, a slow, dragging creak that sent a shiver down my spine. I turned, my gut nodding with unease. The attic door stood ajar, a gateway to the unknown. I stood motionless, attuned to the subtle symphony of the house. The gentle exhale of wind through weathered frames, the quiet sigh of aging timbers. The attic door beckoned, its heavy, weathered presence hinting at hidden truths within its ancient grain. Normally I would have shut it without a second thought, but a strange curiosity held me in its grip, tendrils of mist weaving through my mind. The darkness beyond was not impenetrable. Instead, it shimmered with a silvery luminescence, a play of moonlight filtering through unseen windows, casting ethereal shadows that danced with a life of their own. Almost involuntarily, my hand reached out, fingers brushing the cool, smooth surface of the wood, rich with memories of bygone days. Layers of paint had worn away, revealing the essence of the material beneath, each touch evoking fragments of the past, echoes of conversations lost to time, whispers of days long faded. I took a step, then another, the floorboards responding with a soft, melodic murmur that felt more like a breath than a creak. Memories of my grandmother's tales drifted through my consciousness, stories of houses with memories, of spaces that transcended mere physicality. A gentle draft caressed my skin, neither warm nor cold, but pregnant with anticipation, as if the very air held its breath in anticipation. Without conscious intent, I crossed the threshold. The attic unfolded before me, bathed in the soft glow of moonlight that painted the wooden floor with liquid light. Dust motes pirouetted in the beam, moving with a deliberate grace that seemed almost rehearsed. Shapes materialized from the shadows, forgotten trunks, antique furniture, silhouettes pregnant with untold stories. One object captured my gaze, a small wooden chair, positioned artfully in the moon's embrace, as if awaiting a visitor. I approached cautiously, the chair's aged wood inviting touch. A fine layer of dust cloaked its surface, disturbed by a recent presence. A faint imprint, a ghostly echo of someone's recent departure. The silence was profound, yet pregnant with a living stillness, as if the very air pulsed with awareness. My fingers traced the chair's back, igniting a flicker of recognition, a memory half-formed like a dream fading at dawn. A distant owl's call pierced the silence, sending ripples through the attic, coaxing the dust motes into a graceful waltz. For a fleeting moment, the moonlight seemed to shift, teasing at recognizable shapes before settling back into serenity. An unspoken understanding washed over me. I was not alone, yet the presence felt benign, a silent witness to the essence of the space. The chair stood sentinel, the moonlight a gentle guardian. In the shadows of perception, a connection thrummed, bridging the chasm between us. Some enigmas, I realized, were not meant to be unraveled, but to be embraced, to be felt in the nebulous realm where reality and fantasy meld into something profound and inexplicable. I lingered, a breath in the tapestry of the room, a thread in its narrative. Story 12. The atmosphere was heavy with the fragrance of moist soil and dew-kissed leaves. Above me, the tree branches swayed gently, allowing streaks of golden sunset to filter through their canopy. I strolled along a narrow path, drawn by the distant melody of a bird, a song that suddenly ceased without warning. And then, as if by magic, the path vanished before my eyes. I stood in silence, inhaling the ancient essence of the forest. The moss underfoot felt like velvet, each footstep sinking into its plush embrace. The evening light bathed everything in a warm amber glow, yet a subtle shift had occurred. The shadows now stretched longer, like gentle fingers reaching out across the forest floor. My movements were silent as I pressed on, although I couldn't quite grasp why I continued forward. The forest had metamorphosed around me, taking on an ethereal quality I had never encountered before. The trees seemed taller, their bark shimmering with elusive patterns that danced when I wasn't looking directly at them. White flowers littered the ground, their petals softly aglow in the fading light. The temperature dropped gradually, accompanied by a delicate mist that enveloped the tree trunks like silk scarves. The sound of water echoed in the distance, seemingly emanating from all directions at once. A sweet, unfamiliar scent wafted through the air, reminiscent of honey and aged books. As I journeyed onward, I began to notice peculiar arrangements of small stones. They weren't randomly strewn about. Instead, they formed intricate circles and spirals, each stone meticulously placed. Some bore delicate etchings on their surfaces, while others pulsed with a faint inner light. I felt an urge to pick one up, but an unspoken understanding told me they belonged precisely where they lay. The forest grew denser, yet somehow brighter. The mist now possessed a luminous quality, casting a soft, pearl-like luminescence. I passed through clearings where the grass murmured enigmatic secrets I couldn't decipher, and where mushrooms formed rings that mirrored the celestial patterns above. Even though the thick canopy obscured the sky, I sensed that the constellations above mirrored the earthly patterns below. Time began to flow like honey, its passage indiscernible. Minutes blended seamlessly into hours, their weight indistinguishable. My watch had ceased to function. The hands appeared to move backward when I glanced away. The crystal face had frosted over, creating intricate, ever-changing patterns. I stumbled upon a small stream defying gravity as it flowed uphill, its crystalline waters devoid of any reflection of my visage. Beneath the surface, tiny lights danced like stars trapped in liquid crystal. The stream emitted a sound both familiar and alien, akin to music played in reverse, yet retaining a haunting beauty. Occasionally, movements flickered at the edge of my vision, subtle shifts in the air, as if the very space breathed around me. Figures appeared to walk parallel to my path, just beyond my direct sight, going about their own affairs as if in a bustling train station. The moss beneath my feet began to form intricate patterns, spirals and waves emanating from each footfall, softly glowing before fading into obscurity. It was as if the forest documented my passage, only to erase it in the next instant. The air grew dense with minuscule points of light, akin to dust motes caught in sunbeams, yet purposeful, shaping and reshaping into forms almost recognizable. I found myself in a vast clearing where the mist swirled in perfect geometric designs. At its heart stood an ancient tree, its trunk contorted into impossible shapes. Its branches reached skyward before curving back to the earth, forming a natural cathedral. The leaves transformed with each breath I took, shifting through hues beyond naming. Drawing closer, I noticed the bark adorned with inscriptions. In a language unknown to me, yet I felt the words brushing against my mind, their meanings as gentle as butterfly wings. Night descended, yet darkness never encroached. Instead, the forest bathed in a soft silver twilight emanating from all directions. The air thrummed with a gentle vibration, harmonizing with my heartbeat, or perhaps my heartbeat resonated with it. Fear had dissipated. How could one be afraid in a realm so strangely familiar? Here I remain, penning these words in a journal that materialized in my pocket, though I have no recollection of bringing one. The ink ascends from the page to form letters, as if by its own volition. I am not lost, not truly. I exist precisely where I am, even if the location eludes me. The forest knows, and in that knowledge lies contentment. The avian melody that led me astray has not returned, but new harmonies now grace my ears, tunes tasting of moonlight and harmonies feeling like autumn leaves on my skin. Perhaps I shall pursue these melodies next, or perhaps I shall linger here where the inconceivable feels natural and time flows like water through cupped hands. After all, being lost holds significance only when one seeks to be found. Story 13. The gentle golden light of my bedside lamp barely reaches the hallway, casting a soft glow that dances along the edges of shadows. As I lie in bed, my eyes fixate on the thin strip of light seeping beneath my bedroom door. A mysterious figure glides past, its movements deliberate and unhurried. I hold my breath, my heart quickening in my chest. There are no accompanying sounds, no telltale footsteps to betray its presence. Summoning my courage, I cautiously peek into the hallway, only to find it deserted. That was 3 weeks ago, and ever since that night, the shadow has become a constant companion in the darkness. I've grown accustomed to its silent company, though its purpose remains a puzzle to me. The aged wooden floors of my home sing a quiet lullaby of faint creaks and murmurs throughout the night, but the shadow moves with a grace that is devoid of any sound. Tonight, with the rain tapping gently against my window and the wind whispering secrets through the rustling leaves, I find myself anticipating its arrival once more. The warm embrace of my bedside lamp envelops me, creating a cozy haven of light that only serves to deepen the mysteries lurking in the shadows beyond. The soothing scent of lavender from my diffuser blends with the earthy aroma of petrichor wafting in through the cracked window. A ritual has formed around these nocturnal visits. I brew a cup of chamomile tea, letting its fragrant essence fill the room as I nestle under the covers with a book in hand. The shadow unfailingly emerges during the moments when my attention drifts towards the gap beneath the door, sometimes lingering for a heartbeat or two, other times gliding by like a gentle breeze. What captivates me most is how the shadow seems attuned to my inner state. When anxiety clouds my mind, it moves with a comforting slowness, as if seeking to pacify me. On tranquil nights, it simply drifts past, akin to a leaf carried by the autumn wind. Despite the enigma it presents, I've never felt threatened by its presence. My grandmother used to regale me with tales of houses developing their own sentience over time, absorbing the emotions and memories of those who dwelled within their walls. Perhaps this shadow is merely the house's way of watching over me, ensuring my safety as I straddle the realms of wakefulness and slumber. The house undergoes a transformation under the cloak of night. The wooden banister on the stairs gleams softly in the moon's luminescence, filtering through the skylight above. The antique grandfather clock in the hallway below maintains its steady rhythm with a soft, hypnotic ticking that reverberates through the silent chambers. The very air itself feels pregnant with possibilities and laden with the weight of untold tales. Tonight, a shift occurs in our customary dance. As I fixate on the sliver of light beneath my door, the shadow materializes once more, but instead of passing fleetingly, it lingers. Minutes stretch into eternity, punctuated by the gentle ticking of my bedside clock. The shadow remains motionless, as if expecting something. Driven by an inexplicable impulse, I address it for the first time. "Hello," I murmur, my voice barely a whisper in the hushed night. The shadow stirs slightly, and for a fleeting instant, I swear I sense a form of acknowledgement, akin to a silent nod from an old acquaintance. The atmosphere in my room warms, enfolding me in a cocoon of comfort, as if swathed in a velvety blanket. The flame of my scented candle dances gracefully, unaffected by any discernible breeze. I've pored over numerous books on the supernatural, on spirits and inexplicable phenomena, yet none quite capture this ineffable sensation. There are no chilling drafts, no foreboding dread, no cryptic messages scrawled on walls or objects moving of their own accord. There is only this serene presence, this shadow that stands sentinel over my nights. At times I ponder if the shadow has always existed here, and I am simply the first to acknowledge its presence. Perhaps it watched over the previous inhabitants of this house, a silent guardian as generations ebbed and flowed through these very rooms. Maybe it has bided its time, awaiting someone to recognize its existence, to embrace it as an integral part of the house's natural cadence. As I lie here now, watching the shadows slowly dissipate like morning mist, a profound tranquility envelops me. The rain continues its gentle melody on the window pane, and the house settles around me with its familiar creaks and sighs. I'm certain that come tomorrow night, and every night thereafter, my enigmatic companion will return. In the light of day, I will resume my usual routines, yet a part of me will yearn for dusk, for that moment when I can once again partake in this silent communion with the nocturnal denizen of my hallway. I have ceased attempting to elucidate this phenomenon to others. How does one articulate the presence that offers solace rather than fear, enigma rather than terror? The shadow has seamlessly woven itself into the fabric of my nightly rituals, alongside my chamomile tea and bedtime reading. As drowsiness tugs at the corners of my consciousness and my eyelids grow heavy, I fixate on the slender beam of light beneath my door. The shadow drifts past one final time, its passage so gentle it could almost be a figment of my imagination. Yet I know better now. In this abode, during these quiet hours between midnight and dawn, not everything demands an explanation. And thus, I succumb to the embrace of slumber, cradled by the muffled sounds of the house at night, secure in the knowledge that my enigmatic guardian will return on the morrow, silently traversing beneath my door, a reassuring presence in the depths of the nocturnal hours. Story 14. The gentle breeze whispered through the evening, carrying the fragrance of night-blooming flowers from the garden. Nestled in my beloved armchair, I gazed absently at the shadows waltzing on the walls of the living room, painted by the flickering candlelight. Beside me, on the small table, rested my treasured old Polaroid camera, a keepsake from my grandmother. Though long neglected, a mysterious urge nudged me to pick it up that night. The familiar weight of the camera brought a comforting familiarity as I examined it in the dim glow. My fingers found their way to the shutter button, a well-practiced motion from years gone by. Without overthinking, I aimed the lens towards the darkest corner of the room and clicked. The flash illuminated the space fleetingly, followed by the mechanical hum of the photograph developing. I watched in anticipation as colors emerged on the blank canvas. And then, a peculiar sight caught my eye. In the corner I had captured, a vague figure materialized in the photograph. Not distinct, but hovering like a wisp of smoke taking on a human-like form. Instinctively, I glanced towards the corner, only to find emptiness. Intrigued, I snapped another photo in the same direction. This time, the figure in the image was more defined, seemingly inching closer to the lens. A faint outline of a face emerged, its features blurred and enigmatic. A subtle shiver cascaded down my spine, not born of fear, but of a curious reverence. I continued taking photos, almost entranced by the unfolding mystery. With each click, the figure drew nearer, gaining clarity. It was as though it used the photographs to materialize, each shot granting it more presence in our realm. The hazy contours began to take shape, revealing a vintage dress, reminiscent of the 1940s. The room fell into a deeper silence, heavy with an unseen but palpable presence. The air thickened, the candle flame flickering without a hint of a draft. Methodically, I captured each moment, savoring the peculiar connection in silence. In the final photo of that evening, the figure loomed so close that it almost filled the frame. A gentle smile graced the woman's face, her eyes seemingly peering into mine through the glossy Polaroid. A sense of familiarity washed over me, stirring dormant memories from childhood. As I reached for an old photo album, I noticed a tremor in my hands. Within the yellowed pages, I unearthed a picture of my grandmother as a young woman, taken with the same Polaroid. The identical smile in that aged photograph mirrored the one captured in the last image. Carefully arranging the photos in chronological order on the table, they wove a silent tale of a link between two worlds, bridged by an ancient camera's lens. I never attempted to replicate the experiment, returning the Polaroid to its place on the shelf. Yet on tranquil evenings suffused with the golden hues of sunset, I revisit those photos. At times it appears as though the smile in the picture shifts subtly, as if my grandmother yearns to convey a message. In those fleeting moments, the boundary between memory and reality thins, akin to the delicate surface of a freshly developed Polaroid. Story 15. The vintage thrift shop exuded a scent of mothballs and ancient tales as I sifted through a stack of dusty VHS tapes. Amidst the forgotten relics, one tape stood out to me. It bore no cover, no label, just my name, handwritten in bold black marker. A mysterious find indeed. With a chill creeping up my spine, I inserted the tape into the aging player. Static crackled on the screen, blending with the soft hum of the vintage VCR. The image quality was grainy, with tracking lines lazily slithering across the screen. From the electronic snow emerged recognizable shapes, forming a scene of my childhood bedroom. Yet, something felt off. The walls were painted in a shade of blue that didn't match my memories, and the furniture was arranged in a peculiar yet familiar way. The camera glided leisurely, revealing shelves adorned with toys that sparked a hint of recognition but remained elusive. A music box atop the dresser played a haunting melody, one that resonated deep within me despite never owning such a trinket. The aged tape's distortion added an ethereal touch, drawing me further into its enchanting grasp. Moonlight filtered through delicate lace curtains, casting intricate shadows that danced across the room. Mesmerized, I watched as the camera focused on these shadowy patterns, their graceful movements hypnotizing me. A child's laughter, distant yet soothing, echoed through the room, creating an eerie sense of comfort amidst the surreal setting. The video continued its unhurried exploration, unveiling details that defied my recollections. Books with illegible titles lined a shelf, their spines teasingly blurry. Porcelain dolls with watchful eyes seemed to follow the camera's every move, their silent presence sending shivers down my spine. In a corner stood a wooden rocking chair, its subtle swaying hinting at recent use, the faint creak of its motion barely audible beneath the tape's gentle static. A handmade quilt draped over the chair bore a mesmerizing pattern, stirring a deep-rooted feeling of familiarity within me. Geometric shapes seemed to shift and morph, playing tricks on my subconscious mind. The camera then turned towards the rain-streaked window, where raindrops created a soothing percussion against the glass, lulling me into a tranquil state. Beyond the window, the silhouette of an ancient oak tree swayed in an unseen breeze, its branches beckoning like gentle fingers. A child's crayon drawing, depicting a family of 4 beside a house and tree, hung on the wall beside the window. Despite growing up as an only child with just my mother, the scene felt strangely true, with a date indicating it existed before my birth. As the video feed flickered, a mysterious figure briefly appeared in the window's reflection, a woman shrouded in shadow, her hand raised in a ghostly wave. A sense of recognition washed over me, though her features remained elusive. The tape's images became increasingly distorted, revealing snippets of unfamiliar scenes. A sunlit kitchen, an untended garden, a blurred birthday celebration. Approaching its conclusion, the camera returned to the bedroom. The rocking chair now moved with purpose, as if occupied moments before. Upon its seat lay a small photo album, its cover bearing my name in elegant gold lettering, mirroring the handwriting on the tape. Just as the album began to open, the screen faded to black. I waited in silence, but no further images materialized. When I ejected the tape, it had transformed into a blank cassette, devoid of any markings, a silent witness to the enigmatic experience. That night, as rain tapped against my window, I pondered the tape's cryptic message meant solely for me. The scenes replayed in my mind, each detail fading like a wisp of a dream upon waking. The woman in the reflection, the family in the drawing, the life captured on that mysterious tape, all lingered in my thoughts. Sometimes, as I drift into slumber, the distant melody of the music box whispers in my ears. And in those fleeting moments between wakefulness and dreams, I swear I can feel the gentle sway of a rocking chair that never graced my possession, transporting me to a realm existing only in the mysterious tape, a reality I can no longer validate. Story 16. In the depths of my subconscious, a mysterious figure began to weave its way into my dreams, a silent sentinel lurking in the shadows. Each night, his presence grew stronger, drawing me closer to a realm where reality blurred with enigmatic whispers. The first time I encountered him, the air was thick with the essence of autumn leaves and the promise of a new day. Amidst the twilight dance of slumber, he stood tall, cloaked in a dark coat that seemed to defy time itself. His face hidden in the veil of dusk, he emanated a sense of quiet watchfulness, bathed in the soft glow of a flickering street lamp. As the nights unfolded, the dreams shifted like a tapestry of ever-changing hues. Sometimes the air carried the scent of impending rain, other times it wrapped me in the embrace of night-blooming jasmine. The backdrop morphed, a tranquil park, a deserted train platform, a misty garden path, yet his steadfast gaze remained, a constant thread woven through the fabric of my dreams. I observed the subtle nuances of his presence, the ethereal sway of his coat, the disjointed shadow that trailed his movements, the enigmatic tilt of his head. There was an eerie familiarity in his silent vigil, a haunting melody that resonated with forgotten echoes of childhood lullabies. Each night, the dreams deepened, painting vivid scenes of fallen leaves crunching beneath his feet, the air shimmering with an otherworldly aura that transcended the boundaries of reality. Shadows flitted in the periphery, elusive forms that dissolved when I tried to grasp them, leaving me unsettled in their wake. Gradually, the dreams bled into my waking hours, teasing my senses with whispers of autumn leaves and jasmine that defied explanation. In the hush of my apartment, phantom scents wafted through closed windows. While at work, the fragrance of night-blooming flowers drifted through sterile corridors, a spectral reminder of a world just beyond reach. The rustle of fabric, the phantom footsteps on invisible leaves, subtle manifestations that blurred the line between dream and reality, leaving me haunted by an unshakable sense of being watched. And then came yesterday, a day like any other, until the fabric of my dreams unfurled into reality. Traversing the quiet streets at dusk, mundane thoughts swirling in my mind, I was enveloped by the familiar fragrance of autumn leaves. Heart pounding, I lifted my gaze to find him across the street, a mirage materialized from the depths of my dreams. His dark coat, the unfathomable shadows, but this time his face unveiled, a gentle smile etched with enigmatic wisdom. In that suspended moment, time stilled, the world hushed in reverent anticipation as our eyes locked in silent communion. The golden light of sunset wove a dreamlike tapestry around us, revealing glimpses of a hidden reality that intertwined with our own. His smile spoke of ancient secrets, of mysteries that danced just beyond my grasp, and in that fleeting instant, I felt a profound connection that transcended the confines of the tangible world. With a subtle gesture, he acknowledged my presence, and a wave of recognition washed over me, dispelling the lingering tendrils of fear. In his absence, the scent of autumn leaves and jasmine lingered, a bittersweet reminder of a moment suspended in time. As night descends and I prepare to surrender to the realm of dreams, a newfound sense of peace settles within me, a blend of anticipation and tranquility. I have come to realize that some mysteries are not meant to be unraveled but embraced, experienced in the gentle whispers of the universe. The veil between dreams and reality grows thin, inviting me to explore the liminal spaces, where truth and illusion converge. As I drift into slumber, I carry with me the promise of new revelations, of undiscovered layers waiting to unfurl in the tapestry of my dreams. And in that sacred space between waking and sleeping, I know he lingers, a silent guardian of mysteries untold, watching, waiting, smiling in the eternal dance of shadows and light. The realtor had described the house as small yet cozy, a perfect retreat for those seeking tranquility. I explored each room carefully, taking in the quaint charm of the space. But it was at the far end of the hallway that I encountered a mysterious door, one that had eluded my memory from the initial tour. With a hint of hesitation, I reached out and turned the worn knob. The air inside was heavy with neglect, the floor cloaked in a layer of dust undisturbed for what seemed like an eternity. It was as though this room had been untouched by human presence for years, frozen in time. A soft, amber light seeped through a solitary window, painting delicate shadows over what appeared to be an ancient study. A weathered wooden desk occupied one corner, its surface weathered with the patina of age. The grains of the wood danced in intricate patterns as if whispering untold stories to those who dared to listen. A peculiar fragrance lingered in the air, not unpleasant, but reminiscent of bygone days, of yellowed pages and withered blooms. Intrigued, I found myself drawn towards the desk, my footsteps muffled by the plush carpet beneath. The faint tinkling of distant wind chimes wove through the walls, casting a serene melody that seemed to echo from a distant era. As I trailed my fingers along the desk's edge, I discovered faint indentations etched into the wood, intricate symbols forming an enigmatic pattern. Smooth to the touch, these markings bore the gentle wear of countless hands tracing the same path over time. Night after night, I found myself drawn back to this room. I brought in a worn leather armchair, unearthed from the depths of the basement, and settled in as twilight descended upon the world outside. Here within these walls, time seemed to flow differently, a languid, contemplative stream. Sometimes I would bring a book, but more often I would simply sit in silence, attuned to the subtle whispers of the house settling around me. On a particularly tranquil evening, as raindrops pattered against the window, my gaze fell upon the desk's drawer. It had always been securely locked, yet now it stood slightly ajar, as if beckoning me to explore its secrets. Within its confines, I uncovered a weathered journal bound in leather, its pages adorned with elegant script. The entries, though dated, seemed to leap across time, spanning years and even decades with a seamless grace. The writer's reflections centered on the room itself, depicting it as a liminal space between moments, where time flowed like honey, viscous, sweet, and deliberate. They chronicled the shifting seasons witnessed through the window, conversations with elusive visitors who existed solely within these walls. Their words exuded a sense of tranquility, of quiet contemplation, woven with musings on light, shadow, and the palpable presence of silence. As weeks turned into months, subtle transformations unfurled within the room. The dust no longer settled, defying the natural order of neglect. The quality of light filtering through the window often diverged from the external world's time. During tempestuous nights when the house groaned and protested, this room remained cocooned in a serene stillness, untouched by the chaos beyond its walls. The journal entries began to unveil a deeper truth, prompting me to record my own observations, intertwining them with the enigmatic writer's musings. And yet, upon revisiting my previous entries, I discovered subtle alterations, words rearranged, dates blurred and reshaped. Rather than unsettling me, these changes felt harmonious, as if the room itself was gently crafting our shared narrative. Of all its mysteries, the window captivated me the most. From the exterior, the wall appeared seamless, devoid of any aperture. Yet within the room, the window persisted, offering glimpses of a garden subtly different from the one adorning the house's rear. Blossoms blooming out of season, shadows cast in defiance of logic. I kept this room a secret, withholding its existence from the realtor and my guests. It felt intimate, personal, a sanctuary reserved for those who sought solace within its embrace. The original blueprints, sourced from the local archives, omitted any trace of this room, as though it had materialized at the behest of a soul attuned to the necessity of a space where time ebbed and flowed at its own rhythm. As I pen these words now, I ponder the myriad others who have stumbled upon this hidden sanctuary, each contributing to its aura of tranquil enigma. The journal speaks of predecessors unknown to me, hinting at a lineage of kindred spirits drawn to its quiet mystique. The sun dips below the horizon, or so the light filtering through the window implies. I've come to realize that time loses its relevance within these walls, rendering the ticking of my watch a mere echo of the outside world. Perhaps that is the essence of this room, to offer a haven where the relentless march of minutes and hours yields to a gentler, more forgiving cadence. Though I have yet to unravel all its secrets, I've learned to embrace the enigma of this space, one that exists both within and apart from the rest of the house. Some mysteries I've come to understand are not meant to be solved but experienced, lived within. In a world that rushes heedlessly forward, perhaps we all yearn for a room uncharted on the floor plan, a sanctuary where time bends, dust refuses to settle, and the light from an impossible window beckons us to simply exist. Story 18, the rain whispered softly against the window, creating a tranquil symphony that filled the room with a sense of calm. The scent of damp wood and lingering tea hung in the air, a comforting presence in the dimly lit space. It was a night made for losing oneself in the pages of a book, letting the words carry you into dreams without worry or care. Then, a series of 3 distinct knocks shattered the peaceful stillness, each tap echoing with certainty. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. No one was expected at this late hour, the unexpected interruption unsettling in the quietude of the night. The worn armchair beneath me creaked softly as I shifted, the pages of my book rustling beneath my careful touch. The clock on the wall marked the time as 11:47 p.m., its rhythmic ticking blending harmoniously with the gentle rainfall outside. Living atop my building, visitors were a rarity even during daylight hours, making the presence of someone at my door in the dead of night all the more unnerving. Goosebumps prickled my skin at the thought of a stranger standing just beyond the threshold. Silently, I strained to listen, the rain's soothing melody intertwining with the hum of the radiator in a delicate dance of sound. Perhaps it was merely a trick of my overactive imagination, fueled by the ghostly tales I immersed myself in during these late hours. Tentatively, I settled back into my chair, pulling the soft blanket snug around my shoulders. Yet the 3 knocks returned, spaced perfectly apart, each strike identical to the last. My heart quickened, not from fear but from a strange sense of recognition that stirred within me, like a half-remembered dream teasing the edges of my consciousness. With cautious steps, I rose from my seat, the hush of my sock-clad feet against the wooden floor almost reverent in the quiet room. The warm glow of the reading lamp cast gentle shadows that danced along the walls as I approached the door, a peculiar observation catching my attention. The usual draft that crept beneath the door was conspicuously absent, a stark contrast to the storm raging outside. As my palm pressed against the smooth surface of the door, a curious warmth greeted me, as though the wood had basked in sunlight all day, a phenomenon inexplicable on this rainy night. Closing my eyes, I focused on the sensations surrounding me, the patter of rain, the distant rumble of thunder, the subtle vibrations beneath my touch. 3 more knocks sounded, softer this time, each tap hesitant, as if gently beckoning rather than demanding attention. The warmth from the door pulsed with each knock, a soothing wave that traveled up my arm, stirring ancient memories buried deep within my subconscious. My thoughts drifted to tales my grandmother once shared, of nights when the boundaries between worlds blurred, and visitors arrived not to instill fear, but to impart forgotten wisdom. Some doors lead to realms beyond our comprehension, her words echoed in my mind. Standing there, hand pressed against the door's inviting heat, I pondered if this was what she had spoken of. The knocking ceased, yet the warmth lingered, a comforting presence that throbbed like a heartbeat against my palm. Noticing the rain adopting a rhythm that mirrored the earlier knocks, time seemed to stretch and bend, the world around me bathed in a golden light previously unnoticed. Everything in my apartment took on a surreal glow, as if touched by an otherworldly magic, a phenomenon both enchanting and unsettling. That night, I chose not to open the door, instead standing in silent contemplation until the warmth gradually receded and the rain resumed its gentle patter. Returning to my armchair, I found my tea still warm, the clock frozen at 11:47 p.m., as though time itself had paused in that mysterious interlude. Subsequent rainy nights brought fleeting moments of that same warmth emanating from the door, each instance a gentle reminder of the mysteries that exist beyond our grasp. The unanswered questions, the unexplained phenomena, they became not sources of fear, but of wonder, their enigmatic nature lulling me into a peaceful slumber. The unanswered knocks never returned, yet a transformation had taken root within me that fateful night. I came to realize that some secrets are meant to be felt rather than unraveled, like whispers on the wind that dissolve before their meaning can be deciphered. My grandmother's wisdom resonated within me, guiding me to understand that certain doors are best left unopened, not out of fear, but out of reverence for the enigmatic balance between the known and the unknowable. The true enigma lay not in the identity of the visitor at my door, but in the awakening of a hidden facet of myself previously undiscovered. Drifting off to sleep that night, a newfound sense of peace enveloped me, a serenity born from embracing the gentle mysteries that weave through our lives. And so on quiet rainy nights, when the clock ticks steadily and the rain sings its melodic lullaby, I sometimes feel that familiar warmth against my palm. And in those moments I smile, content in the knowledge that some questions are best left as delicate mysteries, guiding us into dream-filled slumber with their tantalizing uncertainties. Story 19. The November breeze gently rustled the dry leaves scattered along the pathway as I gazed at the haunting outline of the forsaken mansion silhouetted against the dreary sky. Known as the house that never truly housed anyone, although in truth it had sheltered a soul long ago. Yet the memory of that inhabitant had faded into obscurity. Drawing closer to the weathered gate, the touch of the icy wrought iron sent shivers down my spine. The air carried a distinct scent of moss and damp stone, enveloping me in a mysterious embrace. The neglected garden sprawled with overgrown brambles and nettles, reclaiming the cracked walls with their wild tendrils. Despite its state of disrepair, the mansion exuded a forlorn elegance that captivated my senses. My role as a real estate agent required me to conduct an initial assessment of the property. The absentee owner, an elderly gentleman residing overseas, sought to part ways with the estate he had never set foot in, having inherited it from a distant relative. As I ventured through the tangled garden, an oddity caught my eye. Amidst the unruly foliage, faint pathways seemed freshly trodden, hinting at recent activity. Yet the neighbors insisted that no one dared venture onto the premises. With a soft creak, the front door yielded to my touch, ushering me into a realm veiled in a bluish dusk seeping through the sealed shutters. The air hung heavy with dust and the ancient essence of wood, as the floor whispered beneath my footsteps in the main parlor. Covered furniture loomed beneath yellowed sheets, casting spectral shapes in the dimness. Enormous veiled mirrors adorned the walls, distorting light in a peculiar dance that stirred illusions of movement within their clouded depths. Ascending the staircase, I trailed my hand along the polished wooden railing, worn smooth by generations of touch. Along the upper corridor, a procession of closed doors beckoned, revealing vacant rooms save for a few shrouded remnants. Yet, it was within the final chamber that a subtle anomaly beckoned my attention. A bedroom, likely once belonging to a lady, bore a thin film of dust disrupted by recent contact, as if someone had brushed against the forgotten relics. A silver hairbrush rested on the dresser, accompanied by strands of dark, fresh hair untouched by time's embrace. The meticulously made bed hinted at recent occupancy, a faint impression lingering where someone had sat. Just as I prepared to depart, a flicker in the mirror caught my eye, a fleeting glimpse of a feminine figure perched upon the bed. Whirling around, I found the room deserted, though an eerie presence lingered in the air. Descending the stairs, I hastened through the salon, where shifting shadows danced in the waning light. The mirrors seemed to follow my every move as I made my way to the exit. A soft hum, ancient and mournful, drifted down from above, barely audible yet hauntingly distinct. Was it the wind playing tricks through the shutters, or a figment of my imagination? Exiting the mansion, I shut the door behind me, enveloped once more in the tranquil garden as the wind stilled. Casting a final glance over my shoulder, I thought I glimpsed a faint figure moving behind an upstairs window, a ghostly visage vanishing as swiftly as it appeared. In the days that followed, I meticulously detailed my report on the property, outlining its condition, required renovations, and potential market value. Omitting the peculiar hair and haunting melody, I penned a cryptic note. The dwelling possesses a singular charm that may allure a discerning buyer. The house lingered on the market, a silent sentinel awaiting its next occupant. Occasionally, passing by the rusted gate, I paused to peer at the mansion's facade. Each time, a spectral figure seemed to flit between the upper chambers, as if awaiting a long-lost acquaintance, or perhaps never having departed at all. Perhaps therein lay the enigma of the house that never truly knew an occupant. It harbored a presence that refused to fade, an ethereal essence woven into its very walls. Story 20. In the realm of my awakening, I am greeted by a weighty sensation that envelops me, akin to a leaden shroud. The room around me is awash in a gentle radiance, a luminous pearlescent glow that appears to emanate from no discernible source. The walls possess a hue that defies definition, shifting subtly each time my gaze wavers. The ceiling stretches far above, reaching heights beyond the norm for a typical bedroom, vanishing into a velvety darkness reminiscent of a starless night sky. The bed on which I recline is luxuriously soft, almost excessively so. Silken sheets glide over my skin with a mesmerizing whisper whenever I stir. A scent lingers in the air, sweet and redolent of nostalgia, yet elusive in its familiarity. It could be the essence of lavender or the aroma of vanilla, but as I strive to pinpoint it, it metamorphoses into something else entirely. Time seems to ebb and flow capriciously within this space. Shadows elongate and recede as if imbued with a life force, pirouetting on the walls in a deliberate, hypnotic cadence. Silence, though pervasive, is never absolute, a subtle undercurrent of sound, akin to the deep, slumbering breath of a distant presence, or perhaps the resonant echo of my own heartbeat in the vast emptiness, perpetually lingers. Rising from the bed, my bare feet sink into a carpet so plush that it evokes the sensation of treading upon billowy clouds. Scant furnishings populate the room. Alongside the bed rests an antiquated mahogany desk, a crimson velvet armchair, and an oval mirror ensconced in a gilded frame. The mirror, perpetually misted over, as though recently veiled by steam, hints at a concealed enigma. I approach the desk. Its surface is invariably adorned with an assortment of items. Today, a weathered leather-bound journal, a fountain pen filled with midnight blue ink, and a steaming cup of tea greet me. The tea exudes warmth, yet I have no recollection of its preparation. The pages of the diary remain blank, Yet when my fingertips graze them, I detect the faint impression of words inscribed upon the parchment as if penned in invisible ink. The armchair beckons, and I acquiesce, yielding to its inviting embrace. The velvet fabric yields to my touch, still imbued with residual warmth, as though recently vacated. From this vantage point, a curious anomaly in the wall before me captures my attention. It pulsates faintly, akin to the rhythmic rise and fall of slumbering breath. Drawing nearer to investigate, the wall solidifies, devoid of any discernible movement. As is my custom, I seek out a door. I am aware it must exist, concealed somewhere within this chamber. My hands trace the walls, exploring every minute irregularity, every diminutive crevice. At times I believe I discern the outline of a handle, only for it to dissolve like mist at dawn upon my grasp. The mist-shrouded mirror demands my scrutiny. Through the obscured veil I glimpse my reflection, yet there exists an unsettling peculiarity in the mirrored image. My movements appear subtly delayed, as though my reflection hesitates before mimicking my actions. On rare occasions, when the mist momentarily dissipates, I perceive the semblance of another figure gazing back at me through the looking glass. Time progresses erratically. The ambient light fluctuates in intensity, adhering to a cadence divorced from the dictates of day and night. At times I find myself seated in the armchair, perusing the blank pages of the diary for what appears to be mere moments, only to realize that the room's shadows have shifted, as if hours have elapsed. I recline once more upon the bed, beholding the seemingly boundless expanse of the ceiling. The sheets enfold me as though possessed of a sentient grace, cradling me within their comforting embrace. The fragrance in the air intensifies, evoking memories of my grandmother's perfume, the aroma of freshly baked cookies, or the scent of rain upon a verdant summer meadow. Surrendering to the inevitability of slumber, I acknowledge that upon awakening, the cycle shall commence anew. This room detains me in a state of liminality, suspended betwixt the realms of dream and wakefulness, where time coils upon itself akin to a Mobius strip. Uncertain whether I dream of the room or if the room dreams of me, a fragment of my consciousness ponders the existence of an escape route, or whether I have, in truth, harbored a reluctance to seek one. The room has seamlessly melded with my essence, or perchance, I have perpetually been an integral facet of the room, ensnared within an eternal cycle of slumber and wakefulness, wherein the boundaries betwixt reality and fantasy blend harmoniously, akin to hues intermingling upon a canvas freshly painted. Story 21. In the quiet depths of our family history, there existed a doll that had been passed down through generations, finding its way into my little sister's embrace. She cherished it, holding on to its familiar presence until a night veiled in mystery unfolded. Whispers, like delicate threads of a forgotten melody, drifted from her room, beckoning me to uncover their source. Entering cautiously, I half expected to find my sister wide-eyed and alert, but she slumbered peacefully, oblivious to the enchantment that filled the room. The doll, however, sat upright, a silent sentinel with eyes that seemed to pierce through the shadows cast by the moon's gentle glow. A voice, unfathomable and ethereal, whispered my name, weaving a spell of intrigue around me. Standing transfixed in the doorway, I felt the air shift, laden with a weighty nostalgia, akin to the hush before a rain-laden sky releases its tears. My sister's rhythmic breaths intermingled with the soft creaking of aged floorboards beneath my feet, creating a symphony of tranquility, punctuated by the doll's enigmatic presence. Perched regally on an antique rocking chair beside my sister's bed, the doll exuded an aura of antiquity, its porcelain countenance bathed in the silvery moonlight that painted its features with a fluid grace. Its once ordinary eyes now held depths that beckoned me closer, drawing me into a realm where memories danced like specters in the night. A voice, barely audible yet profoundly resonant, wove a tapestry of my childhood recollections, unveiling forgotten treasures hidden in the recesses of my mind. Each whispered word carried the weight of bygone years, evoking images of innocence and wonder. Memories long relegated to the shadows now shimmered like distant stars, guiding me back to a time when the world was a tapestry of untold stories. As the night unfurled its velvety cloak, the doll's whispers unfurled a narrative of yesteryears. Family gatherings suffused with joy, conversations veiled in mystery, and secrets buried beneath the layers of time. Its voice, a soothing balm for the restless soul, painted portraits of moments long past, each stroke imbued with a sense of timeless grace. My sister stirred in her slumber, a gentle reminder of the fleeting nature of time. The doll, keeper of silent truths, paused in its storytelling, allowing the room to bask in a tranquil stillness that enveloped us like a cocoon of serenity. In the quiet interlude, the doll's voice shifted, resonating with an ancient wisdom that transcended mortal understanding. "There are echoes in these walls," it murmured, the words hanging in the air like a delicate mist. Whispers of forgotten tales, of laughter and tears entwined in the fabric of this house. We are the custodians of memories, guardians of a legacy that spans generations. I nodded in silent acknowledgement, my heart attuned to the symphony of the past that reverberated within these hallowed walls. The room, now imbued with a spectral luminescence, pulsed with a spectral energy that transcended the boundaries of time. The doll's revelations, though shrouded in enigma, resonated with a truth that resonated deep within my soul. As dawn tiptoed across the horizon, casting its golden rays upon the world, the doll's voice began to fade, a wistful echo of a forgotten melody. "Some secrets are not meant to be unraveled," it intoned softly, a final benediction before slipping into the realm of silence. Awakening from my reverie, I found myself bathed in the warm embrace of morning light, the doll perched in its chair, a silent witness to the passage of time. My sister stirred, a harbinger of new beginnings, and as I rose from my slumber, a glimmer of recognition flickered in the doll's glass eyes, a silent acknowledgement of a bond forged in the crucible of memory. In the hush of twilight, when the world slumbers beneath a blanket of stars, I find myself drawn to my sister's room, a silent sentinel in the realm of dreams. The doll, keeper of secrets and whispers, remains silent, yet in the fragrance of lavender that lingers in the air, and the faint echo of a lullaby that dances on the edge of perception, I find solace in the tapestry of memories that weaves us together across time and space. Story 22. The hush of the night was broken solely by the rhythmic clatter of the train wheels on the tracks. I found myself in the rearmost carriage, enveloped in a soft, dim glow emanating from the delicate fixtures dangling above. The air held a gentle warmth, and the steady motion of the train cast a nearly hypnotic spell. Peering through the window, I watched as the mist gracefully twirled in the darkness, shaping ephemeral figures that dissolved into the night. In that carriage, I believed myself to be the sole passenger, until a peculiar realization dawned upon me. My reflection on the window glass seemed to merge with the obscurity beyond, conjuring an indistinct presence observing me from the other side. The soothing melody of the rails carried a certain comfort, akin to a mechanical lullaby coaxing me into slumber. It was then that a peculiar anomaly caught my eye within my reflection on the pane. A shadow loomed behind me, a silhouette seated a few rows down. I had no recollection of anyone boarding the train, yet there they were, unmistakably present. As the train pressed on through the night, the persistent murmur of the wheels seemed to murmur ancient, forgotten tales. With cautious deliberation, I turned to steal a glance. The carriage basked in an amber hue, casting elongated shadows across the vacant seats. The enigmatic figure I had glimpsed in the reflection remained unmoving, cloaked in what appeared to be a dark garment. Their countenance veiled beneath the shadow of a wide-brimmed hat eluded my gaze. Time appeared to languish as I fixated on that silent specter. The atmosphere within the carriage thickened, pregnant with memories foreign to me. The passengers sat in eerie stillness, a seamless extension of the train itself. Electing to rise, feigning a need to visit the lavatory at the carriage's rear, I cautiously approached the mysterious figure. Their cloak seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, exuding an otherworldly chill. A delicate fragrance of lavender and antiquity lingered in the air around their presence. Passing by the occupied seat, a palpable cessation of time enveloped me. The clamor of the rails receded to a far-off realm, as if from another dimension. It was then that a disconcerting detail seized my attention. Beneath the dark shroud, no movement betrayed the presence of breath. Reaching the carriage's terminus, I hesitated, torn between advancing to the next carriage or retracing my steps. The corridor stretched endlessly, the dim illumination casting mesmerizing patterns upon the floor. Upon glancing back, the seat previously occupied by the enigmatic figure stood vacant. In its stead lay an aged train ticket, yellowed with the passage of time. Trembling, I retrieved the ticket. Its date of issue bore a timestamp from half a century prior, precisely the very day. The ticket emitted a residual warmth, as though freshly held moments before my discovery. Returning to my seat, I clutched the artifact between my quivering fingers. The train resumed its nocturnal voyage, the rhythmic cadence of the wheels once more a reassuring presence. Beyond the misted window, shadows seemed to traverse alongside the train, as if accompanying it on its enigmatic journey through the night. As weariness began to claim me, I pondered how many others had chanced upon the mysterious traveler on the final train of the evening. The ticket in my possession stood as the sole tangible testament to that surreal encounter, yet even it began to wane, akin to a fading dream upon waking. The train pressed on through the night, carrying within its confines secrets and passengers, both seen and unseen. Drifting into slumber, a faint essence of lavender and the distant echo of retreating footsteps lingered in the carriage's corridor. Story 23. The rain cascaded down with a mesmerizing cadence on the rooftop of the house, weaving a natural symphony that harmonized with the stillness of the night. Nestled in my cherished armchair, cradling a cup of chamomile tea now grown cold in my hands, I found myself lost in the hypnotic lullaby of the raindrops. Yet amidst this tranquil serenade, a subtle shift in the atmosphere piqued my senses. Beneath the gentle drumming of the rain, a delicate sound, almost imperceptible, tiptoed into my awareness. Faint footsteps, as if originating from the depths of the basement. Initially, I brushed it off as the familiar settling of an old abode. Ancient houses possess a language of their own, murmuring through creaks and whispers, especially on damp, rainy nights when the wooden framework swells with moisture. However, there was an uncanny precision to these sounds, a rhythm that echoed eerily of human presence. Rising from my seat with deliberate grace, I set down the cup on the nearby table. The wooden floor beneath my feet exuded a residual warmth, a lingering embrace from the day's fading sun. With each step toward the basement door, a chill crept through the air, as though an icy breath rose from the stairs. The brass handle, cold to the touch, yielded to my grasp with a soft click that reverberated through the silent house. Descending into the darkness, the staircase unfurled before me, faintly illuminated by a ghostly blue light seeping in through a small skylight. Each step I took resonated with a symphony of my own footfalls interwoven with the enigmatic echoes from below. The scent of the basement, a medley of aged timber, damp earth, and indefinable mystery, grew more potent with each descent. In the shadowed chamber, illuminated sporadically by flashes of lightning through the skylight, arcane shapes danced upon the walls, cast by shelves laden with forgotten relics. It was then that my gaze fell upon an anomaly. Faint footprints etched in the dust-covered floor, not of solid form but ethereal imprints, as if left by someone with moist soles pacing in circles at the room's center. Drawn to these enigmatic marks, I pondered their origin. The skylight remained intact, ruling out any intrusion of rainwater. As I scrutinized the enigmatic trails, a movement flickered in the corner of my vision, beckoning me to the darkest recesses where light dared not tread. With a mixture of trepidation and intrigue, I approached the obscure corner where the chill deepened and the phantom footsteps, now encompassing the entire space, resonated in a symphony of unseen motion. As my eyes traced the spiral path of footprints spiraling toward the room's epicenter, a peculiar realization dawned upon me. The freshest imprints, closest to the heart of the spiral, remained damp, as though freshly wrought. Time seemed to stand still as I beheld the vanishing traces, dissolving into the frigid basement air. The footsteps, once pronounced, melded seamlessly into the rain's relentless cadence outside. Ascending the stairs once more, a peculiar tranquility enveloped me, as if I had borne witness to an ancient, enigmatic ritual echoing through the house's hidden depths. That night, as I readied myself for slumber, the rain's melody took on a new dimension. No longer mere droplets cascading at random, but a rhythmic echo of the unseen wanderer in the basement. Drifting into sleep, I pondered the possibility of those phantom footsteps returning, and whether I would summon the courage to linger long enough to unveil the mystery shrouded in the dust of ages. Story 24. The old shop exuded the scent of history, a blend of weathered pages and aged timber. Strolling amid the rows of shelves, I let my fingertips graze the dusty spines of forgotten books. And then, one book beckoned to me. Its cover, cracked with time, revealed a mystery waiting to unfold. Opening it, my heart quickened at the sight of my own name inscribed on the first page in a script unfamiliar to me. Outside, a gentle rain tapped against the windows, its rhythmic melody weaving into the beat of my own heart. The wooden floor murmured beneath my steps as I gravitated towards a worn leather armchair bathed in the soft glow of a small reading lamp. The amber light enveloped me, cocooning me in a sense of tranquility amidst the quiet dust of the shop. Sinking into the embrace of the aged leather chair, the diary in my hands exuded a warmth that felt almost alive. Tracing the faded ink with my fingertips, I noticed how some letters seemed to dissolve into the paper, like whispers lingering on the edge of perception. The first entry, dated decades past, bore a handwriting strangely reminiscent of my own, the curves, the slant, uncannily similar. It began with a simple observation. Strange how memories slip between moments, like shadows passing through unnoticed doorways. As I delved deeper into the narrative, the rain outside shifted from a mere tap to a continuous murmur, each droplet carrying a fragment of the story, blending past and present. The room's temperature, perfectly balanced, cocooned me in a comfort that beckoned me to read on. The diary unfolded tales of subtle, inexplicable occurrences, moments where reality twisted and turned in improbable ways. Footsteps echoed in empty rooms, reflections danced out of sync, presences lingered without leaving a trace. Intriguingly, one passage stood out. Time is not a linear path, but a tapestry, woven with intricate threads and unexpected folds. Memories are not mere recollections, but living entities existing simultaneously in different epochs. Fear gave way to wonder in the writer's words, inviting me to ponder the blurred lines between known and unknown. Each page drew me deeper into a meditative trance, a calm curiosity guiding my journey. The rain outside harmonized with the rustling of pages, the lamp's golden glow casting a magical sheen over the text. Family ties transcended conventional understanding, hinting at shared experiences across generations, at memories flowing like water between lives. As twilight descended, shadows crept between the shelves, lending an air of mystery to the space. The rain persisted, a comforting backdrop to the unfolding tale. The final entries delved into dreams more vivid than reality, musings on perception and the fluidity of existence. Hours slipped by unnoticed as I read, enveloped in a peace that transcended time. Closing the diary as darkness enveloped the shop, I felt the warmth of the leather in my hands, cradling the essence of countless moments. The rain outside sang its lullaby of gentle uncertainty, a soothing serenade to the enigma that lay before me. Some mysteries are not meant to be unraveled, merely felt. Some stories lead us into realms of reflection and serenity. With the diary as my guide, I embraced the beauty of ambiguity, resting in the tranquil space between the known and the unknown. Story 25. In the hushed sanctuary of the bathroom, the only sound was the soft, rhythmic drip of the faucet. Weary, I rubbed my eyes and lifted my gaze to meet the mirror. My reflection stared back, wearied like me, unchanging. Yet in a fleeting moment, a smile curled upon its lips, separate from my own stoic expression. I blinked slowly, fixating on the mirror, as the gentle rain tapped against the window, a tranquil melody in the background. The steam from my recent shower still clung to the mirror's edges, creating a misty halo around my reflection. The vintage wall sconce cast warm shadows that danced with graceful elegance. Running my fingers along the cool porcelain sink, I drew closer to the mirror. The scent of lavender from my bath oil mingled with the dampness in the air, enveloping me in a dreamlike atmosphere. Everything felt surreal, as if I were drifting through water, lost in a tranquil reverie. Night after night, a mysterious pull drew me to this mirror. It started subtly, a slight delay in my reflection's movements, a gentle tilt of the head that didn't quite mirror my own. These changes were so slight that I doubted my own perception. Was it merely exhaustion playing tricks on my mind? I pondered as the soft hum of the bathroom fan provided a constant backdrop. The wooden floorboards beneath me creaked softly as I shifted, but in the mirror, my reflection remained motionless. Candlelight flickered behind me, casting warm pools of light that seemed to move independently, adding to the enchantment. The mirror's surface felt different now, not cold and lifeless as glass should be, but warm, almost living beneath my touch. Each evening, the discrepancies in my reflection became more pronounced. It blinked when my eyes were open, or its hand would rest slightly askew from mine on the glass. These anomalies were fleeting, like ripples in still water that smoothed away before certainty settled. The old wall clock's gentle ticking marked the passage of time as I scrutinized every detail. Clad in matching cream-colored sweaters, my reflection and I shared the same weary eyes, the same strands of hair falling across our foreheads. Yet, there was a growing sense of detachment in its gaze, a subtle divergence from my own. I observed as my reflection's breath ceased synchronizing with mine. As I exhaled, it inhaled. The mirror's surface seemed to pulsate with each breath, a delicate membrane separating two worlds. The air grew thick with anticipation, yet a serene peace lingered, a symphony of soft sounds. The rain's gentle patter, the distant wind, the steady drip of water. Warm light continued to caress the mirror, creating patterns that moved independently of any visible source. My reflection's eyes held a depth beyond my comprehension, a knowing gaze that hinted at secrets just out of reach. One night, bathed in moonlight filtering through the frosted window, my reflection extended a hand. Its movement was tender, as if unsure, akin to a leaf drifting on a tranquil pond. Though my hand remained at my side, a warmth spread through my fingertips inexplicably. The boundary between observer and observed, reality and reflection, blurred with each passing moment. The mirror's surface rippled softly, like water settling after disturbance. Its smile remained gentle, inviting, devoid of malice but brimming with a wisdom I struggled to grasp. The scent of lavender intensified, mingling with the earthy rain and the flickering candlelight's warmth. In these encounters, fear never found me. Instead, a profound peace enveloped me, unveiling hidden facets of myself. The mirror transformed into a portal to depths existing between heartbeats and breaths. Some nights, I ponder which of us is the reflection. With closed eyes, I sense phantom movements unmade, memories of unvisited places. The mirror harbors these secrets, unveiling them in gentle waves that lap at the shores of consciousness. The rain continued its gentle serenade against the window, and my reflection watched with patient eyes. Sometimes, in the perfect stillness of night, bathed in ethereal light, I swore I heard a familiar melody hummed by the reflection, known yet unknown. In those moments, the boundary between self and reflection blurred until distinctions faded. Perhaps reflections are not mere copies, but gateways to uncharted territories within ourselves. Standing in the tranquil bathroom, witnessing my reflection smile with uncanny autonomy, I ponder if I am ready to reciprocate that smile, bridging the gap between self and reflection. Story 26. The soft mattress cradled me, while the cozy duvet wrapped around like a comforting embrace. A gentle light filtered through the curtains, and the rhythmic ticking of the clock filled the room with a soothing melody. Breathing in the clean scent of freshly laundered sheets, I let myself surrender to exhaustion. Then a faint rustle disrupted the peaceful atmosphere. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, yet undeniably close, emanating from beneath the bed. Remaining motionless, I regulated my breathing, a skill honed from years of solitary living that taught me to question every unfamiliar noise. But this sound was different, carrying a weight and presence that thickened the air. Despite the intrusion, the bedroom retained its familiar warmth. Shadows danced gracefully on the walls, painted by the gentle glow of the street lamp outside. My collection of vintage hardcover books stood sentinel on the shelves, their spines creating a tapestry of muted colors in the dim light. The vintage alarm clock's steady ticking, usually a lullaby, now served as a marker for each moment of heightened awareness. Another sound surfaced, barely audible, a soft inhale that wasn't mine, followed by an exhale carrying hints of mint and the earthy fragrance of damp soil post-rain. My fingers curled into the sheets, not out of fear, but contemplation. While my rational mind offered explanations of the heating system or a stray animal, a deeper instinct whispered otherwise. Slowly, my hand reached towards the edge of the mattress, not to investigate visually, but to sense. The space below felt cooler, as expected, yet possessed an unusual density, akin to dipping fingertips into water, evoking memories of childhood swimming lessons, where shapes blurred the line between solidity and fluidity. Time itself seemed to bend and stretch, minutes elongating and contracting like shadows at dusk. I teetered between alertness and a meditative state, attuned to every subtle sound and shift in the air. The presence beneath, neither menacing nor benign, existed in parallel with my consciousness. Throughout the night, nuances unfolded that would have escaped a more anxious mind. The gentle breeze around my hand carried a floral essence, reminiscent of night-blooming jasmine. Occasionally, a soft tapping sound echoed faintly, resembling fingers drumming on wood from the depths of a well. As dawn approached, the darkness transformed, the street lamp's glow yielding to the gray light of early morning. The presence ebbed like a tide retreating from the shore, leaving behind a residue. A sense of sharing the night with an alternate consciousness lingered, one governed by enigmatic rules. Summoning courage with the dawn's light, I peered under the bed to find only dust and shadows. Yet the space appeared expanded, deeper than logic dictated, and the floor retained a warmth incongruous with the morning chill. On the farthest board, barely visible in the dimness, a pristine handprint smaller than mine glistened, not in dust, but in what seemed like morning dew. I left it untouched, acknowledging that some mysteries are best left unsolved, existing in the serene realm between reality and fantasy. Now, each night as I settle into bed, the sounds below have transformed into companions. The gentle rustling, soft breathing, and occasional whispers of movement have become familiar. I've come to accept that not every unknown entity warrants fear. Some exist solely to remind us of the vast, intricate strangeness of the world. The handprint reemerges each morning, consistently in its place, fresh with dew. I've ceased attempting to decipher its origin, much like I've ceased trying to rationalize the newfound tranquility that envelops my slumber. Some mysteries are better left as gentle enigmas, drifting in the delicate space between wakefulness and dreams, where the line between perception and intuition blurs beautifully. Story 27. The cozy coffee shop buzzed softly with whispered conversations and the comforting whir of the espresso machine. Lost in the gentle ambiance, I absent-mindedly scrolled through the photos on my phone until a peculiar image caught my eye. It was a snapshot of my bedroom, taken from an angle that seemed unfamiliar, yet oddly intimate. The warmth of freshly brewed coffee beans filled the air as I studied the photo with a mix of curiosity and intrigue. The image revealed my room bathed in the soft glow of my bedside lamp, casting delicate shadows on the pale blue walls. My neatly made white sheets and gleaming wooden floorboards painted a serene picture, untouched by the chaos of the outside world. Intriguingly, the metadata indicated that the photo was captured at 3:17 a.m., a time when I should have been deep in slumber. As I sipped on my lavender tea, its soothing essence spreading tranquility within me, I couldn't shake off the mystery of the unexpected photo. The composition was striking, as if someone had delicately framed the room with an artist's eye, capturing every detail with precision. Returning home that evening, a subtle unease lingered in the air as the autumn wind whispered through the trees, casting playful shadows across my walls. Setting my phone on the dresser with caution, I couldn't ignore the subtle shift in the atmosphere, a whisper of something unseen lingering in the corners of my mind. Preparing for bed, the familiar creaks of the wooden floors seemed to echo louder than usual, each sound a subtle reminder of the unknown presence that seemed to tiptoe around me. Lying in bed, watching the curtains sway gently in the breeze, a peculiar feeling washed over me as my gaze landed on the slightly askew book on my shelf, The Secret Garden, an old favorite from my childhood. The antique clock's soft ticking marked the passing minutes as I drifted into a light slumber, only to be roused by the gentle patter of rain against my window. The digital display glowed 3:15 a.m., the world draped in a veil of moonlit serenity. Days turned into nights, each 3:17 a.m., bringing a new photo on my phone, a silent observer capturing moments unseen. The room seemed to breathe with a life of its own, subtle changes hinting at a presence that defied explanation. Books shifted, windows opened wider, and the soft glow of the lamp held a familiar touch of nostalgia. One evening, as dusk painted shadows across the room, I found myself drawn to The Secret Garden, its pages whispering tales of forgotten dreams. A pressed lavender sprig, a remnant of my mother's love, fell from the book, its scent a bittersweet reminder of days gone by. Leaving my phone facing upwards, the lens capturing the essence of the room, I embraced the nightly ritual of discovery. Each morning unveiled a new photo, a silent narrative of the night's secrets, a reminder that mysteries often lie in the most ordinary of places. In the quiet hours of the night, when the world slept and dreams danced on the edges of reality, I found solace in the gentle revelations that unfolded through the lens of my phone. The border between the known and the unknown blurred, revealing a world where love transcended time and space. And so, I embraced the nightly gift of the mysterious photos, each one a whispered tale of a world unseen, a reminder that beauty and wonder often lurk in the shadows of the familiar. In the soft, quiet space of the night, where the boundaries of reality fade, I found a new kind of magic, one that whispered of love, of memories, and of the timeless connection that binds us all. Story 28. The rain softly tapped against the windows of my old farmhouse, creating a soothing melody that intertwined with the gentle creaking of the wooden floor beneath my feet. It was an autumn evening where reality and fantasy blurred seamlessly. Leaves outside swayed in the darkness, casting ever-shifting shadows on the hallway's cream-colored walls through misty panes. Nestled in my favorite armchair, cradling a now cool cup of chamomile tea, I absent-mindedly watched as the floor lamp's glow painted a golden circle on the floor. An unfamiliar aura lingered that evening, a subtle yet insistent feeling I couldn't quite grasp. Was it the thickened air, or the profound silence enveloping the house, almost palpable in its depth? Rising slowly, my attention snagged by a flicker at the corner of my vision, I found the hallway leading to the bedrooms lengthening beyond its usual reach. Shadows in the corners appeared denser, darker, almost pulsing with life. Pausing at the threshold of the living room, I gazed into the growing darkness that seemed to thicken toward the hallway's end. The temperature dropped gradually as I ventured forth. Each step on the wooden floor produced unfamiliar sounds, as if treading on uncharted territory. Family portraits lining the walls stared back at me with altered expressions, as if the familiar faces had undergone a subtle metamorphosis. Halfway down the hallway, an ancient scent of weathered books and damp wood seized my senses, a fragrance foreign to my home. Glancing at the window on my right, rain had etched intricate patterns on the glass, following an enigmatic design. And there it was, a shadow, darker than the rest, gliding with unnatural elegance along the opposite wall. Unattached to any tangible object, it possessed a solidity of its own, like condensed mist. Moving with a delicate grace, almost hesitantly, as if acknowledging my presence. My breath deepened as I observed, not with fear, but with a peculiar sense of recognition, as if that presence had always lingered, awaiting acknowledgement. The shadow halted by the guest room door, assuming a faintly human form. Taking a step closer, the shadow seemed to react, flickering slightly. The rain sound morphed into a steady whisper, as if conveying a message. Straining to listen, I almost discerned words in an unfamiliar yet strangely intelligible language. The air chilled around me, but not unpleasantly so, akin to being wrapped in a cool silk sheet on a balmy summer evening. The shadow resumed its motion, gliding towards me in a slow, fluid dance. I stood transfixed, watching as it neared. Just a few steps away it paused. In the hush of the house, my heartbeat echoed, steady and calm. The shadow inclined slightly, a silent greeting. Moved by an inexplicable impulse, I raised a hand. Mirroring my gesture, the shadow seemed to extend a hand from its nebulous form. Though no physical touch occurred, a warmth lingered where our hands almost met. Then, with the same grace it arrived, the shadow began to dissipate, dispersing like smoke carried by an unseen breeze. In its wake, a faint hint of jasmine lingered, accompanied by a profound sense of tranquility. I lingered in the hallway, time seemingly suspended, listening as the rain's rhythm faded. Returning to the living room, I found my tea still warm, as if time had paused during our encounter. Since that evening on rainy nights, I tread the hallway with heightened awareness of the shadows. At times I catch a glimpse of that familiar form, dancing just beyond my vision's edge. The mystery of that shadow remains unsolved, yet its presence left not fear, but a recognition of inexplicable wonders. The hallway now holds its secret, and on quiet nights, when rain taps against the windows, I await, a blend of curiosity and peace, for another encounter with a dancing shadow beyond the hallway. Story 29. The evening held a unique essence, with autumn seeping into your very bones, whispering promises of lengthening nights. Nestled in the armchair of my study, I savored the gentle touch of the wind outside, caressing the leaves to create a natural, soothing melody. Amid this tranquil moment, a noise stirred from the depths of the basement, a delicate rustling akin to old paper coming to life. Initially, I dismissed it as the usual settling of the house, those quiet murmurs every structure makes as it settles into the night. Driven by curiosity rather than fear, I rose from my seat. The warm glow of the desk lamp enveloped me in a golden aura as I approached the basement door. The wooden steps whispered ancient secrets beneath my weight, creaking gently with each footfall. The air grew cooler as I descended, carrying with it the faint scent of damp earth and forgotten books. Within the basement, shadows pirouetted on the walls in harmony with the flickering light bulb. The space felt familiar, filled with neatly arranged boxes and furniture draped in white sheets like slumbering phantoms. Yet that evening held a subtle shift. My gaze fixated on a detail previously unnoticed. A door nestled in the far corner, where light struggled to penetrate. It was a plain door, crafted from dark wood without any embellishments. Strangely, I had no recollection of ever seeing it before, despite spending countless hours organizing my belongings in the basement. The brass handle gleamed unusually bright, as though recently polished. Approaching cautiously, I felt the cold floor pulsate beneath my feet, as if imbued with a life force of its own. As I neared, I sensed a chill emanating from the door, the air around it icy against my skin. My fingertips grazed the weathered surface of the wood, tracing its ancient, uneven texture. The door seemed to quiver faintly under my touch, as if sentient and aware of my presence. The silence in the basement thickened, punctuated only by the echoing rhythm of my heartbeat. Tentatively, I clasped the handle. Surprisingly warm against the frigid air, it turned with an effortless fluidity. Without a sound, the door swung open, revealing a mesmerizing sight. Instead of a wall or another room, a thin, silvery mist undulated gently, swayed by an unseen breeze. The mist exuded a soft, hypnotic glow, not frightening but rather alluring, akin to a fading dream upon waking. Within the mist, a delicate melody drifted, as if from a distant piano. The air carried a sweet, familiar fragrance, reminiscent of spring blooms or freshly brewed tea. Standing at the threshold, torn between curiosity and caution, I watched as the mist wove shapes that flickered in and out of focus. Sometimes familiar faces materialized, other times landscapes of unvisited realms unfolded before me. It felt as though I peered through a veil separating reality from a deeper, enigmatic realm. Stepping back, I gently closed the door. The click of the lock seemed to dispel the enchantment, and the familiar sounds of the house returned. The clock's ticking, the wind's rustle, a distant dog's bark. Ascending the stairs slowly, I carried with me the sensation of having unearthed something extraordinary. In the ensuing days, I revisited the basement multiple times, yet the door had vanished, replaced by an unyielding brick wall. However, on the quietest nights, when the world hovers between waking and slumber, I still sense that distant melody. I ponder if the door lingers hidden somewhere, awaiting rediscovery by another soul. Some doors, I've learned, open only at specific junctures, when time and space intertwine in incomprehensible ways. Perhaps it's for the best, for the mystery of that basement door taught me that not all inquiries demand resolution. Some secrets are more enchanting when shrouded in mystery, like dreams that fleetingly touch reality before dissolving into the silver mist of memory. Story 30. The Rain's Whisper. The rain whispered softly against the window as I closed the curtains, preparing for the embrace of sleep. Yet as I turned, a presence caught my eye. A figure stood in the stillness of my backyard, unmoving. Initially, I mistook it for my own reflection in the glass, but as I stepped back, the figure remained, its gaze unwaveringly fixed on me. The warmth from my cup of chamomile tea slipped away as I stood transfixed, watching tendrils of steam weave ghostly patterns in the air. Through the rain-kissed window, the figure, cloaked in a navy sweater darkened by the downpour, mirrored my every detail. Its posture, its weary shoulders, echoed my own, worn from hours bent over a desk. Even in the dim lamplight, its face, my face, bore a serene expression of observation. Breathing slowed, I observed the figure, my mirrored self, casting small clouds of breath on the window. The old house murmured, settling into the night's damp embrace, while a distant clock marked time in harmony with the rain's gentle cadence. Drawing nearer to the window, I noticed how the wet grass reflected my room's soft light, encircling the figure's feet with a halo of illumination. Within that radiant circle, the figure stood, unmoving, as if placed with deliberate intent. Water streamed down its face, untouched by movement. I scrutinized the nuances between us, its relaxed posture, its unwavering gaze. In its eyes, I glimpsed a wisdom beyond my own reflection, a knowing gaze that eluded my own self-examination. As the rain intensified, creating intricate patterns on the window, each drop distorting the figure into a watery blur, the sound enveloped me in a soothing shroud of whispered secrets. Time ebbed peculiarly, flowing like honey from a spoon. Forgotten, my tea chilled in my hands, while the figure remained, a silent guardian of moments. In our silent communion, the barrier between us dissolved, melding window, rain, and darkness into a shared reality. A bridge unfurled between two parallel selves, an inexplicable connection transcending the tangible. There was no fear, only a profound sense of familiarity, akin to unearthing a forgotten letter or recalling a dream unremembered. As night deepened, the rain's fervor waned, blurring the figure's edges until it melded seamlessly into the shadows. Its departure was not abrupt but a gradual fading, akin to dawn's gentle sweep, erasing stars from the sky. Closing the curtains, I pondered whether the figure had truly departed or merged with the night. My reflection now gazed back, subtly transformed by the encounter. Though I still draw the curtains at night, on rainy evenings, I find myself peering into the obsidian expanse of my backyard, uncertain of what I seek, another self or something more enigmatic. Yet, some enigmas hold greater allure unsolved, some truths more profound unspoken. The rain's gentle tap persists, a nocturnal lullaby, as if harboring whispered revelations waiting to be heard. Perhaps somewhere in the shadows, another self listens, poised to impart wisdom long forgotten. Story 31. The soft murmur of crickets drifted in through my cracked window, harmonizing with the gentle hum of passing cars in the distance. Shadows danced across my dimly lit bedroom, painted by the glow of the street lamp outside. Just as I was about to slip back into slumber, a subtle anomaly caught my eye, sending a shiver down my spine. The front door stood ajar, swaying gently in the night breeze. I lay still, observing the delicate movement of the door, its hinges whispering as it shifted. The cool night air carried the scent of damp earth and fallen leaves, a familiar fragrance heightened by an unfamiliar occurrence. Earlier that evening, I had double-checked the lock as I always did, a habit ingrained from years of solitary living. The house settled around me, its usual creaks now imbued with an eerie significance. Rising from my bed with deliberate slowness, my bare feet met the solid, cool wooden floor, grounding me in the present moment. Moonlight filtered through the windows, casting ethereal patterns of silver on the walls as I made my way toward the hallway. The air grew chillier as I approached the open doorway, prompting me to wrap my arms around myself for warmth. Outside, the night revealed its beauty, stars sparkling like diamonds on velvet, trees swaying in a gentle nocturnal ballet. As my hand reached for the door handle, a glint on the welcome mat caught my attention. In the dim light, a lone white feather lay, almost luminous in its purity. Picking it up, I marveled at its softness, feeling a sense of otherworldly elegance in its presence. In the kitchen, I placed the feather on the counter and brewed some chamomile tea, allowing the familiar ritual to soothe my frayed nerves. The warm aroma mingled with the night air that still whispered through my home. As the tea steeped, I noticed a peculiar quality about the feather. It emitted a faint, barely discernible glow. Recollections of my grandmother's tales flooded my mind, stories of nocturnal spirits who visited the living, leaving behind subtle tokens of their presence. What I once dismissed as bedtime fables now seemed less fantastical, especially as the feather's soft light captivated my gaze. The clock on the microwave displayed 3:33 a.m., a time my grandmother had deemed the gentle hour, when the boundary between worlds waned. Carrying my tea and the feather, I returned to my bedroom, the door still ajar, but the once unsettling breeze now stilled. As I moved to close the door, a melodious sound, akin to wind chimes but more profound, wafted in from the night, its source elusive. The melody ebbed and flowed, leaving a tranquil ambiance in its wake, like a comforting embrace enveloping the house. With a newfound calmness, I shut the door, the soft click of the lock signaling a sense of security. Placing the feather on my nightstand, I noticed intricate swirls adorning its surface, revealed only under certain angles of light, reminiscent of frost patterns on winter windows. Sipping my tea, I sat cross-legged on the bed, pondering my recent life changes, a career transition, a pending relocation. The feather's gentle pulsing seemed to synchronize with my breath, hinting at unseen forces guiding me through my personal crossroads. As the pre-dawn chorus of birdsong replaced the nocturnal crickets, I settled back under the covers, the feather's glow gradually fading with the rising sun. The mystery of the open door remained unsolved, its enigma lingering in the quiet moments between wakefulness and sleep. In the ensuing months, I embraced new beginnings, carrying the feather with me in a velvet-lined box. On solitary nights, I would gaze at its ever-evolving patterns, feeling as though it held secrets yet to be unveiled. The nightly ritual of checking the door became a symbolic gesture, a recognition of the threshold between the known and the unknown. Occasionally, I would leave the window ajar, inviting the nocturnal symphony of crickets and distant melodies that echoed like unseen wind chimes. Perhaps, just perhaps, my ethereal visitor would return, bearing another message to illuminate the path ahead on this wondrous journey I found myself traversing. Story 32. The hotel's sign shimmered with a gentle, almost otherworldly glow in the misty night. The doorman greeted me with a subtle smile, and the fragrance of aged wood and wax enveloped me as I passed through the lobby. My room, while modest, cradled me in comfort, lulling me into a deep slumber, weary from my travels. When morning dawned, I descended to the reception area, only to find an empty expanse where the hotel once stood. I stood there, my travel bag hanging warily from my shoulder, gazing at the unkempt grass swaying serenely in the morning air. The cool breeze carried the essence of dew and wild blooms, a stark contrast to the refined atmosphere of polished wood and leather I had known just hours before. My mind grappled with the disparity between what my eyes beheld and the vivid recollections of the previous night. Every detail remained etched in my memory with exquisite precision. The antique brass key, bestowed upon me by the doorman, felt weighty and icy against my palm. The deep crimson carpet beneath my feet hushed my steps as I traversed towards room 247. The hallway's wallpaper boasted a delicate design of pale golden leaves that appeared to sway and pirouette in the soft glow of the wall-mounted torches. My fingertips traced the spot on my wrist where it had rested against the sleek mahogany desk while I inscribed my name in the guest ledger. The leather-bound tome possessed a substantial presence, its pages lush and cream-hued. The ink cascaded from the fountain pen in graceful arcs as I penned my signature. I can still envision the doorman's elongated, pallid fingers as he pivoted the book towards himself, nodding in approval at my mark. The room itself exuded an aura of understated luxury. Rich velvet drapes in emerald green framed lofty windows that peered out onto a courtyard garden. The bed linens carried a faint whisper of lavender, and a lone rose in a crystal vase graced the bedside stand. I distinctly recall the soft click of the vintage radiator as it enveloped the room in warmth, and the gentle tick-tock of an ancient clock on the mantel. What lingers most hauntingly is the music. As I slipped into slumber, delicate piano notes drifted upwards from somewhere below. The melody, unfamiliar yet achingly nostalgic, akin to a half-remembered lullaby. It was so subtle that I questioned whether it was a dream, yet now it resonates vividly in my mind, though I could not recreate it if I tried. I've spent endless hours grappling with my sanity, retracing my path from the prior evening. The cab driver who ferried me here appeared unremarkable, though now I cannot recall tendering payment. The street appears familiar, yet altered in the light of day. The structures flanking the empty lot stand precisely as I recall, yet they seem to press inwards as if the void between them had always existed. What unsettles me most is the discovery in my pocket this morning. The brass key remains, tangible and authentic, its heft a constant reminder that my experiences were not mere illusions. The digits 247 are etched clearly on its head, the edges worn smooth with time. When I grasp it, I can still sense the slight resistance of the lock as I turned it the previous night, still hear the soft click as the door swung ajar. Inquiries at nearby establishments and cafes yield no recollection of a hotel ever occupying that space. An elderly woman walking her dog cast me a peculiar expression upon hearing my description of the edifice, then hastened away, muttering to herself. A perusal of local newspaper archives unveiled no trace of the hotel's existence or demise. It's as though it never existed at all. Yet each night since, as I drift into slumber, the evocative blend of wood polish and aged leather wafts to me. Occasionally, in that delicate threshold between wakefulness and dreams, I discern distant piano strains wafting through my consciousness. The melody appears to carry a cryptic missive just beyond my grasp, like words in a tongue I almost comprehend. The key now rests upon my bedside table. Sometimes, in the dead of night, I swear I perceive it gleaming with an inner radiance, as though reminiscing about the lock it once opened. I contemplate discarding it, yet an unseen force restrains me unfailingly. Perhaps on a mist-laden night I shall turn a corner and behold that softly glowing sign once more. Perhaps the doorman will stand there with his knowing grin, prepared to welcome me back. Until that juncture, I safeguard the key and ponder the hotel that materialized for a solitary night, the music that reverberates solely within my mind, and all the other guests who may have occupied rooms that now exist solely in memory. Story 33. The tempest outside rattled the windows, with thunder rumbling in the distance. I nestled beneath a cozy blanket, attempting to immerse myself in a book, when a sudden burst of static pierced the room. My ancient radio had sprung to life on its own accord. The dial spun leisurely, halting between frequencies. A faint voice murmured through the crackling static, barely perceptible. Initially, I brushed it off. It was not uncommon for old gadgets to behave oddly during storms. The soft white noise intermingled with the gentle tap-tap of rain on the window panes, creating an almost soothing ambiance. My grandmother's radio had always been capricious, its weathered wooden exterior holding a treasure trove of memories within its grain. I recollected how she used to tune into evening programs in her beloved armchair, the very same chair I now occupied. The static undulated like waves brushing ashore, forming melodic patterns. Amidst the interference, I discerned something peculiar. The whispers grew clearer, not quite forming words, but carrying a cadence reminiscent of my grandmother's cherished melodies. The wooden casing of the radio exuded warmth, despite being unplugged for years. The rain persisted in its rhythmic drumming as I inched nearer, captivated by the familiar rhythm. The fragrance of my grandmother's lavender perfume wafted through the room, a scent I hadn't encountered since her passing 5 years ago. The static shifted once more, and I could have sworn I detected her humming, the same lullaby she used to sing to lull me to sleep during thunderstorms. The room felt altered, cozier somehow, amidst the autumn chill outside. The lamplight cast gentle shadows that waltzed across the walls, while the radio's dial continued its leisurely journey across inexplicable frequencies. Each number it traversed briefly illuminated, creating a soft light display that shimmered on the polished surface of the side table. I found myself swaying slightly to the hidden rhythm within the static, memories drifting up like autumn leaves caught in a breeze. The voice within the radio grew more defined, though never quite sharp enough to decipher words. It conveyed emotions rather than language, solace, yearning, affection, all intertwined in the void between channels. Time seemed to meander differently as I sat there, wrapped in my blanket, absorbed in the implausible transmission. The storm outside dwindled to a faint murmur, as if nature itself strained to catch the enigmatic broadcast. The radio's glow pulsed softly, syncing with the tempo of my breath, and I was engulfed by an overwhelming sense of tranquility. Hours may have slipped by, or perhaps only moments. The static began to wane like a receding tide. The whispers grew fainter, yet the warmth lingered. As the radio's light dimmed, I noticed something atop it, a solitary dried sprig of lavender, previously absent, its delicate fragrance mingling with the lingering scent of ozone from the storm. The radio fell silent, but the dial remained fixed between frequencies, indicating a channel that defied existence. I never endeavored to switch it on again, cognizant that some transmissions are not meant for repetition. Sometimes, on stormy nights, I settle into my grandmother's chair and listen to the rain, recalling the night when the radio awakened on its own, playing a station beyond reach. The lavender sprig still adorns the radio, evergreen and enduring. And occasionally, when the house is shrouded in perfect silence, I catch a faint whisper of static, akin to a whispered greeting from the realm between frequencies, reminding me that not all channels are for universal audience. Story 34. The gentle rhythm of rain tapping against my window had become a familiar companion during my late-night writing sessions. Each droplet painted shimmering trails down the glass, creating a shifting canvas of watery light. The soft glow of my desk lamp enveloped me in a warm amber aura, while the rest of the room nestled in comforting shadows. I found solace in watching the raindrops, deciphering hidden tales within their wandering paths. But tonight, a subtle shift in their dance caught my attention. The water flowed in mysterious patterns, as if guided by an unseen force. Initially, I dismissed it as a trick of exhaustion, the rain nearly lulling me into that dreamy state between consciousness and slumber. Yet, the anomalies in the rain's movements grew more pronounced. Droplets avoided certain areas on the glass, carving out dry spaces that gradually formed the outline of a figure. Intrigued, I leaned in closer to the window, my breath hitching as I beheld not just the rain, but also the faint reflection of my room behind me. In the layered reflection of glass and water, I noticed an oddity in my own image. It seemed slightly delayed, out of sync with my actual motions. The rain's gentle symphony filled my ears, a soothing background melody. Mesmerized, I watched as my reflection's hand reached out to touch the glass, mirroring actions my own hand had not yet taken. A warmth spread through me, contrasting the coolness of the night air near the window. The reflection's features began to shift, subtly transforming into something simultaneously recognizable and alien. The eyes that met mine held a profound wisdom, depths that transcended time. Remaining motionless, I observed as my reflection underwent a graceful metamorphosis. It became genderless, ageless, a being beyond the constraints of mortal existence. The rain wove intricate patterns around this enigmatic form, defying gravity in perfect circles. A flicker in my desk lamp momentarily dimmed the room, and in that fleeting darkness, a presence brushed against me, gentle and reassuring. When the light steadied, my reflection returned to mirroring my movements flawlessly. Yet, the rain persisted in its celestial dance, a testament to the extraordinary encounter. Hours passed as I sat by the window, contemplating the mystical experience. The lingering presence felt akin to a cherished memory, neither alarming nor intrusive. With the approach of dawn, the rain gradually ceased, leaving behind a window adorned with ordinary streaks of water. Now on rainy nights, I am drawn to that window, abandoning pen and paper on my desk. Occasionally, under the perfect conditions when the rain forms a reflective canvas, I catch glimpses of that ethereal self watching me from beyond the glass. We share a silent understanding, aware that certain mysteries are meant to be felt rather than unraveled. The rain continues its descent, each drop carrying the promise of another encounter. In those moments of being both observer and observed, I wonder if in a parallel reality, another version of myself gazes out through their window, yearning to catch a glimpse of my world through the silver threads of rain. Story 35. The gentle crackling of the fireplace enveloped the room in a cocoon of soothing warmth. My hand moved in slow, rhythmic strokes over my dog's velvety fur as he nestled beside me, his amber eyes drifting into a half-slumber, a tranquil scene painted by the flickering flames. Then a subtle shift in the air. Max tensed, his ears perking up, breaths becoming labored. With a sudden burst of energy, he leaped to his feet, a low, uncertain growl escaping his throat. His gaze fixated on a shadowed corner of the room, a place where darkness seemed to pool and gather. Initially, I dismissed Max's reaction as mere canine sensitivity to the unseen whispers of the night, the rustle of leaves outside, the scurry of tiny paws within walls. But this time there was a difference in his demeanor. His bark held a note of curiosity, a query lingering in the air like an unanswered riddle. The flames danced on the walls, casting playful shadows that seemed to beckon me towards that mysterious corner. An ancient bookshelf stood sentinel there, its time-worn frame bearing witness to countless tales. Rows of dusty tomes lined its shelves, untouched by human hands for years. Despite the apparent stillness of the room, a chill crept in, originating from that very corner where Max's gaze remained fixed. It was as though a pocket of winter had infiltrated the very fabric of the walls, sending a shiver down my spine. Drawing my blanket tighter around me, I observed as Max tentatively approached the enigmatic spot, his tail lowered but not in fear. This nightly ritual had become our silent dance, a choreography of the unknown unfolding in the quiet hours. As twilight descended, I would find myself ensconced in my favorite armchair, Max's vigilant eyes inevitably drawn to that corner. His reactions varied, sometimes a silent watchfulness, other times a soft bark laden with unspoken words. Subtle shifts began to manifest in the room. Books would rearrange themselves overnight, the temperature fluctuated without reason, an unfamiliar scents wafted through the air, a blend of aged parchment and morning dew. My logical mind sought explanations in creaking floorboards, drafty crevices, or the tricks of an overactive imagination. But deep down, I knew there was more to it, a silent presence lingering on the fringes of perception. One evening, as I pored over a tome by lamplight, Max's bark pierced the tranquil atmosphere. Looking up, I witnessed a strange phenomenon. Motes of dust swirling in defiance of gravity near the bookshelf, forming ephemeral patterns that hinted at hidden messages. Max nuzzled against me, a silent reassurance in his touch. It was as if he knew more than I, a silent guardian straddling the line between worlds. I began documenting these occurrences, tracing patterns in the chaos like a detective unraveling a cryptic case. The mysteries seemed to intensify with each passing night, especially during the waning moon or the gentle patter of rain against the window panes. The books that shifted always belonged to a specific shelf, ancient volumes steeped in poetry and folklore. In the liminal space between wakefulness and slumber, I glimpsed fleeting visions of what Max perceived. The corner appeared to stretch infinitely, shadows undulating like liquid tendrils, hinting at a realm just beyond mortal sight. There was no fear in this shared space, only a gentle curiosity that bound us together in a delicate dance of discovery. The enigma became a familiar companion, a puzzle meant to be savored rather than solved. Now, as I pen these words bathed in the fire's soft glow, Max lies at my feet, a loyal sentinel in our nightly vigil. The bookshelf looms in the corner, its secrets veiled in shadow, a silent witness to our quiet communion with the unknown. Some mysteries, I've come to realize, are not meant to be unraveled but embraced, like the hush of twilight or the caress of a gentle breeze. The fire crackles on, its warmth a constant presence in the ever-shifting tapestry of the night. Max drifts into dreams, his ears twitching in response to unseen whispers. And in the corner, the shadows deepen, cradling ancient secrets within their velvety embrace. Perhaps, in the silent spaces between heartbeats, lies the true essence of understanding. A trust in the unseen, a surrender to the mysteries that dwell in the quietude of night. Story 36. The soft murmur of the vintage radio filled the stillness of my silent apartment. It sat untouched for years, yet here it was, softly playing in the dim glow. As my hand reached out to silence it, a voice emerged, soft, familiar, and intimate. It whispered words known only to me. The radio rested on the antique side table that once belonged to my grandmother, its wooden frame capturing the warm light cast by my reading lamp. The night had been tranquil until that moment, with the gentle raindrops on my window offering a serene accompaniment to my solitary evening. Nestled with a book and wrapped in my cherished blanket, I was taken aback when the first crackle of static disrupted the peaceful atmosphere. Initially, I thought I had inadvertently nudged the table, causing the ancient radio to spring to life. However, I quickly realized that couldn't be the case. The radio had been dormant since my grandmother's passing 5 years prior. I had kept it solely for sentimental reasons, a token of the countless evenings spent in my childhood listening to music while she knitted in her favorite chair. The voice grew more distinct, emerging from the static like a shadow emerging from mist. "I remember the butterfly," it uttered, so faint that it almost slipped by unnoticed. My breath hitched in my throat. The butterfly, only my grandmother and I shared that memory. It was our secret, a fragile blue morpho that had alighted on my hand during her funeral. I had never divulged how it remained there, perfectly motionless, until the final benediction was spoken. The rain persisted in its gentle rhythm against the window panes as I remained motionless, fearful that any movement might shatter the peculiar enchantment that had enveloped my home. The voice persisted, navigating through patches of static. "You still keep the origami birds in the shoebox under your bed." Another secret, the paper cranes she had taught me to craft, each one holding a whispered wish inscribed in pencil. I had safeguarded them from prying eyes. The soft radiance of my lamp seemed to pulse in harmony with the static, casting dancing shadows on the radio's wooden exterior. A scent reminiscent of dried lavender and aged books wafted through the air, my grandmother's signature fragrance. The room's temperature shifted, turning pleasantly cool, akin to the morning breeze in her garden where we often sat. The voice unfurled more memories. The concealed key under the loose brick in her garden wall, the covert recipe for her blackberry tea encrypted in her journal, her clandestine humming of Moon River when she believed she was alone. Each disclosure washed over me like a gentle wave, unearthing memories I had tucked away in the deepest recesses of my mind. I found myself sinking deeper into my chair, my initial trepidation yielding to a profound tranquility. The pauses filled with static transformed into a soothing white noise, akin to ocean waves or wind rustling through trees. My grandmother's voice, acknowledging it as hers now, continued its tender soliloquy, each syllable laden with shared experiences. Time seemed to ebb differently as I absorbed her words. The rain outside morphed into a distant melody harmonizing with the voice emanating from the radio. My eyelids grew heavy, yet I resisted the urge to succumb to sleep, fearful of missing a single utterance. The voice recounted summer afternoons in her garden, secret pathways in the woods behind her home, and tales left unfinished. As the night deepened, the voice gradually faded, blending once more with the static. I yearned to reach out, to pose the unanswered questions, but an invisible force restrained me. Perhaps some enigmas are destined to remain just that, enigmatic. The final words resonated clearly, piercing through the silence like a moonbeam through clouds. The most precious secrets are those that reassure us we are never truly alone. Then, the static dissipated into silence, leaving behind only the pitter-patter of rain and the gentle cadence of my breath. I never reactivated the radio after that night. Yet occasionally, when the rain falls just so, and the evening light dances upon its wooden casing, I swear I detect the faintest whisper of static. In those fleeting moments, I am reminded that certain secrets are meant to be safeguarded, while others find their way to be heard. Story 37. The last time anyone laid eyes on Jake was a fortnight ago. Search parties scoured the area to no avail, leaving the authorities clueless. Then, in the dead of night, a buzz from my phone jolted me awake. A message from Jake. Help me. The coordinates were transmitted from his device, leading to a remote spot deep within the woods, a place shrouded in mystery and solitude. Now, I find myself seated in my dimly illuminated study, entranced by the raindrops cascading down my window pane, each drop painting intricate patterns as they journey downwards. The gentle tap-tap-tap creates a hypnotic melody against the glass, harmonizing with the soft ticking of my grandmother's antique wooden clock, marking the passage of time in hushed tones. Before me lies my silent phone, its screen a void of darkness. The message from Jake lingers in my mind, a cryptic plea that refuses to be deciphered. Jake and I shared a bond forged in childhood, where secrets were whispered in treehouse hideaways and walks home bathed in the golden glow of afternoon sun. We knew each other's lives intimately, a connection unbreakable. When Jake failed to show for our customary coffee rendezvous, a sense of unease settled in my bones. He never missed our meetings, never deviated from routine. The authorities exhaustively searched every nook and cranny, questioned everyone, scoured the woods, scrutinized security footage. Yet, Jake remained elusive, as if swallowed by the mist of dawn. During the search, I stood at the forest's edge, observing the dance of flashlight beams amidst ancient trees, a haunting scene illuminated by moonlight. The scent of pine and earth lingered in the air, a reminder of the wilderness's embrace. And now, in the dead of night, these messages arrive, shrouded in enigma and sent from Jake's number. Night after night, the messages materialize, emerging from the shadows when the world slumbers and silence reigns supreme. Always from Jake, always with locations that defy logic. Some messages contain fragments of our shared past, inside jokes, nicknames, memories known only to us. Logic dictates that this is a cruel prank, a twisted game orchestrated by an unknown entity. Yet there are messages that stir a primal fear within me, messages that hint at an otherworldly knowledge. Remember the time we unearthed that ancient compass in your attic? Follow its guidance. No one else knew of that compass, its existence a secret shared between us. And tonight, as rain serenades the night, another message materializes on my screen. The soft glow of the phone casts a spectral light in the room. The trees hold my secrets. They have always known. My fingers tremble as they hover over the keyboard, contemplating a response for the first time in 2 weeks. The grandfather clock whispers softly, its chimes a gentle lullaby. Outside, the wind rustles through leaves, the haunting call of an owl echoing in the distance. Summer nights spent camping with Jake flood my mind, tales spun around crackling fires until embers faded to ash. I close my eyes, enveloped in a cocoon of memory and uncertainty. The rain persists in its melodic dance against the panes, a symphony of nature's lullaby. Another buzz from my phone, and this time the message diverges from the rest. Do you recall our pact beneath the starlit sky? The vow to always find each other? I remember vividly. 2 12-year-olds huddled in sleeping bags, gazing at shooting stars. A promise sealed with hot cocoa and marshmallows, a promise to be each other's beacon in the darkness. The messages weave a tapestry of the past and present, blurring the lines between reality and reverie. Perhaps Jake is speaking in a language only I comprehend, a code of memories and shared experiences. My thoughts drift to the compass, its needle spinning erratically before settling on an unfathomable direction. Jake had joked about it pointing to another realm. Now I find solace in cradling the ancient compass, its brass exterior cool against my palm. The needle gyrates, halts, then points towards the woods. Some enigmas are not meant to be unraveled, but rather embraced in the liminal space between sleep and wakefulness. I cling to the messages, each one a fragment of a puzzle I hesitate to solve, yet cannot resist pondering. The clock strikes midnight, its soft chimes a reminder of time's ceaseless march. I anticipate the arrival of another message tomorrow night, and the night after, each missive a piece of a cryptic mosaic. For now, I remain in my study, attuned to the rain's serenade and the clock's cadence, the compass a companion in my hands. Sometimes I glimpse fleeting shadows beyond the window, ephemeral shapes that could be memories materializing in the gloom. And in that twilight realm between presence and absence, Jake's messages persist, whispering of oaths sworn beneath the starlit heavens. Story 38. Night had draped the ancient countryside, dwelling in a cloak of profound serenity. Nestled in my cherished armchair beside the crackling fireplace, I observed the shadows pirouette on the walls as the flames leisurely devoured the logs. The cozy warmth enveloped me like a snug embrace, while beyond, the autumn breeze tenderly rustled the tree leaves. In that moment of utter tranquility, a peculiar sound caught my attention. A crystalline, childlike giggle wafted from the upper floor of the house. It was a laugh that seemed to chime like silver bells. Pausing to listen, I allowed the sound to intertwine with the fire's gentle crackle. There was an air of innocence about it, a joyful laughter that bordered on the musical. Yet, having dwelt alone in this abode for over 2 decades, children were unfamiliar guests. Curiosity stirred within me like a placid stream, gradually dispelling the drowsiness that threatened to engulf me. With deliberate movements, I rose from the armchair, relishing the sensation as my feet met the time-worn Persian rug. The floorboards murmured softly underfoot as I made my way towards the staircase. The flickering candlelight in the living room cast a welcoming glow, casting my shadow in a silent waltz upon the walls. Ascending the stairs, I noted the air growing cooler, not a biting chill, but a gentle caress on the skin, akin to the sea's whispering breeze. The laughter echoed anew, closer this time, emanating from the guest room. A seldom used chamber, adorned with antique furniture draped in ghostly white sheets that billowed as if stirred by an unseen hand. The door stood ajar, emitting a silvery light distinct from any other in the house. Not moonlight, too warm for that, nor electric bulbs either. It pulsated softly, akin to a tranquil heartbeat. Pushing the creaking door open, the room unfolded before me, bathed in that ethereal luminescence. The draped furniture formed gentle, comforting silhouettes, resembling clouds in a clear sky. And there, perched on the window ledge, I beheld a sight that stole my breath. Not a distinct figure, but a play of light and shadow that seemed to mimic a child. The laughter rang out once more, this time clearly emanating from that radiant presence. No fear gripped me, only a profound sense of awe. The light child frolicked with the beams it emitted, casting luminous patterns on the walls as if painting with light itself. Drawing nearer, the room's temperature fluctuated between cool and warm, like the ebb and flow of ocean waves. As I approached, a flicker of recognition stirred within me. In its fluid motions, I discerned echoes of my own childhood play. The realization washed over me, evoking the sweetness of a long-forgotten memory. That crystalline, pure laughter belonged to my childhood self. Time seemed to slow to a crawl as I witnessed that surreal spectacle. The light child continued its silent play, punctuated by that melodic laugh that now reverberated like a whisper from the past. I refrained from speaking or disrupting, lest I shatter the spell of peace and nostalgia. Gradually, the silvery light dimmed, reminiscent of a winter sunset. The child's form grew increasingly ephemeral until only a faint glow lingered. The parting laughter was a gentle murmur, a tender farewell before fading into obscurity. I lingered in the room for what felt like an eternity, enveloped in a soothing silence. The draped furniture stilled and the air reverted to its usual temperature. Yet something had shifted. The guest room, once a repository of dusty recollections, now harbored a precious enigma. Retreating to my armchair by the fireplace, the embers smoldering softly, I settled amidst the cushions. I acknowledged that the events of that night would forever remain shrouded in uncertainty. Was it a dream, a memory, or perchance a profound message from the past, materializing through a child's laughter in the darkness? Since that night, whenever I passed by the guest room, I paused to listen. On the stillest nights, a faint echo of that crystalline laughter seems to reach me, a gentle lullaby guiding me towards slumber. And with a smile, I choose to preserve the mystery, a tender secret shared between myself and the child who laughs in the shadows. Story 39. The cool touch of the cement floor greeted my bare feet as I descended the basement stairs, each step echoing softly in the stillness. The air held a faint scent of aged wood and dust, wrapping around me like a familiar shroud. My search for a long-forgotten photo album led me to the corner where an old mannequin stood, its presence now commanding my attention. Originally procured from an estate sale, this mannequin had a silent history etched into its delicate features, a history veiled in shadows of the past. As I approached, a shiver whispered through me, for the mannequin no longer faced the wall but stood turned towards me, its face a blank canvas under the flickering basement light. The play of shadows and light created an illusion of movement, a dance of mystery that beckoned me closer. A memory stirred within me of the day I first brought this enigmatic figure home, a relic of forgotten tales waiting to be whispered. The basement embraced me with a gentle embrace, the rain outside adding a soothing backdrop to the unfolding scene. Droplets painted intricate patterns on the window, their rhythm harmonizing with the mannequin's silent stance. The world outside seemed distant, muffled by the veil of memories that enveloped this space. In the hushed stillness, the mannequin stood as a sentinel of time, its porcelain surface catching the light in a way that seemed almost alive. The soft crackle of settling wood enveloped me, a symphony of whispers that intertwined with the rhythmic beating of my heart. Each creak of the floorboard beneath my feet echoed a tale untold, a story waiting to unfurl in the shadows. My grandmother's voice echoed in my mind, her words of objects carrying unseen memories resonating in the quiet expanse of the basement. The mannequin, surrounded by relics of my past, held a presence that transcended the mundane. Imperfections etched into its form whispered of bygone eras, of secrets buried within its porcelain facade. As I stood entranced, the flickering light wove a tapestry of shadows around the mannequin, each movement imperceptible yet tantalizing. The chill in the air wrapped around me like a comforting embrace, a reminder of mysteries waiting to be unraveled, of stories longing to be heard. Time seemed to sway in the basement's embrace, minutes melting into hours as the mannequin stood sentinel, a silent witness to the echoes of the past. The rain outside continued its gentle symphony, a backdrop to the enigmatic dance unfolding within these walls. I felt not fear, but a curious intrigue, a longing to unravel the enigma that stood before me. In the soft glow of the flickering light, I realized that some mysteries are best left unsolved, some stories meant to be felt rather than understood. The mannequin, with its silent vigil, held a memory too profound for words, a secret too sacred to be revealed. And so, in the quiet of the basement, I stood, a mere mortal in the presence of a guardian of forgotten tales, a keeper of memories lost to time. Story 40. In the hushed glow of moonlight seeping through the delicate curtains, shadows waltzed across the weathered wooden floor. Nestled in my cherished armchair, I was enveloped by the stillness of the night, my eyes drawn to the ancient mahogany box perched on the mantelpiece. This box had been a fixture in the house since my grandmother's time, a silent sentinel of memories unexplored. Its polished exterior caught the moon's soft rays, casting a subtle shimmer, while its intricate carvings seemed to stir in the dimness. Never before had I dared to open it, not even when my grandmother was alive. It sat there, a mysterious enigma on the edge of my consciousness, akin to a painting one views daily without truly seeing. But that night, something shifted in the air. Perhaps it was the play of light on the elaborate inlays, or maybe it was the profound silence that draped the room in a cloak of reverence. I rose from my chair, the wool of my sweater whispering against the fabric as I moved through the room's sacred calm. Each step towards the mantelpiece echoed softly on the aged floorboards. The atmosphere thickened as I drew nearer to the box, a subtle mist seeming to embrace it, unseen but tangible. My fingertips grazed the warm mahogany surface, a sensation almost lifelike under my touch. The intertwined patterns of leaves and branches etched on its facade appeared to sway with a life of their own. And there, at the center of the lid, nestled amidst the carvings, was a minuscule eye, hidden yet watching. As I examined the box more closely, a faint, ancient scent wafted into the air, a blend of sandalwood with an elusive, mysterious undertone that tugged at forgotten memories. Eyes closed, I succumbed to the fragrance, images of a woman, her gentle smile, and whispered secrets dancing at the edges of my mind. The distant rustle of wind against the window panes brought me back to the present, my hands trembling as they traced the box's edges. Though lacking a visible lock, it had remained closed, untouched. Or had it? Childhood recollections of this house now felt blurred, as though a hidden hand had stirred the sands of time. Seated on the couch, the box cradled in my lap, it felt weightless, as if harboring something intangible, a mere echo of substance. Yet, within its confines, a subtle movement stirred, akin to a fleeting shadow. The warmth it exuded intensified in my grasp, and for a fleeting moment, the tiny carved eye seemed to regard me with a knowing gaze. A shiver, not born of fear but of uncanny recognition, cascaded down my spine, a sense of familiarity akin to reuniting with a long-lost dream figure. And in that moment, my grandmother's cryptic words resurfaced, her enigmatic advice echoing in the quiet of the night. Some questions find answers only when we stop seeking them. The room's shadows elongated and swirled, mirroring the box's intricate designs on the walls. The scent, now richer and more enveloping, wove a hypnotic spell around me. Contemplating the generations that had passed through these walls, each beholding the box without unveiling its mysteries, I pondered the significance of its contents. Gently returning the box to its place on the mantelpiece, the carved eye seemed to smile approvingly, a silent acknowledgement of my choice. Settling back into my armchair, a peculiar calm descended upon me, a peace born of understanding that not all secrets demand unraveling. The moon's gentle glow continued to bathe the room in its silvery light, the night stillness deepening with newfound significance. Eyes closed, I allowed the lingering scent to lull me towards slumber, teetering on the cusp between wakefulness and dreams. In that tranquil interlude, a faint sound whispered from the mantelpiece, a sigh, a breeze, or perhaps a mere trick of the night. The box remained, its secret safeguarded within, a silent witness to a mystery that required no solving. And with that realization came a serenity, a tranquil acceptance, unfound until that moment. Story 41. The night enveloped the room in a thick, velvety darkness, with only a faint glimmer from the street lamp outside casting a weak light through the window. Shifting in bed, I sought a more comfortable position, But then, a sudden stillness gripped me. At the foot of the mattress, there was a subtle weight, as if someone sat there, silent and unmoving, observing me. My breath slowed to a whisper as I lay completely motionless, trying to decipher the mysterious presence. The weight lingered, a steady presence that neither shifted nor intensified, merely a gentle indentation in the mattress, like a patient spectator biding its time. The old house groaned and settled around me, its wooden frame murmuring in the night, the familiar sounds taking on a new significance. I sharpened my focus on my senses as my eyes struggled to adjust to the dimness. The air carried a slight chill, a deviation from the usual warmth of the season. My cotton sheets felt unusually heavy, as if anchoring me in place. Outside, through the partially open window, the nocturnal whispers of leaves rustling in the breeze reached my ears, their secrets elusive and enigmatic. Time slipped through my grasp, minutes blending into hours as I lay unmoving, attuned to every delicate shift in the air, every subtle sound. The street lamp's glow cast long, breathing shadows that danced with the swaying tree branches outside. My heartbeat echoed steadily, not with fear, but with a primal awareness that pulsed through me. Gradually, my eyes adjusted to the darkness, revealing shapes emerging from the shadows. The familiar contours of my dresser, the gentle drape of the curtains, and there, at the foot of the bed, a deeper pocket of darkness. It made no move, posed no threat. It merely existed, as though it had always been there, waiting for my acknowledgement. A strange calm settled over me, a curiosity replacing the initial shock. The presence felt neither hostile nor benevolent. It simply shared this tranquil moment in the depths of night. Memories of my grandmother's tales drifted through my mind, of night visitors who observed, remembered, and bore witness without malice. The soft ticking of the bedside clock marked the passage of time, each second a gentle reminder of the world's ceaseless turning, even in this suspended moment. A passing car momentarily flooded the room with light, exposing only ordinary shadows, yet the weight persisted, steadfast and undeniable. Subtle changes began to permeate the room. The air carried a metallic tang, reminiscent of post-storm aftermath. The shadows deepened, extending into new dimensions that seemed to materialize out of the darkness. The silence between the house's settling creaks grew profound, pregnant with meaning, as if the night itself listened intently. My thoughts wandered through the nights spent in that room, the dreams dreamed, the tears shed, the thoughts pondered in the pre-dawn hours. Had the presence been there, unnoticed before? Had it borne witness to my moments of elation, my silent sorrows, my midnight musings? The concept should have unsettled me, yet it enveloped me in a strange sense of camaraderie. With the first hints of dawn's light softening the darkness, a subtle shift occurred. The weight at the foot of the bed began to dissipate, gradually lifting like mist under morning's sun. I remained still, refraining from directly acknowledging its absence. Some things I comprehended now were meant to be felt and remembered, not seen clearly. When I finally rose, the room lay empty, bathed in the gentle glow of early morning. The imprint on the mattress where the weight had lingered remained undisturbed, smooth and untouched. But a change had transpired. The room felt altered, as though it had expanded to accommodate newfound possibilities previously unconsidered. Now, each night as I settled into slumber, I found myself attuned to the spaces around me in a manner I had never known. I noted the essence of darkness, the texture of silence, the weight of shadows, and sometimes, in the deepest hours of night, I sensed that gentle indentation at the foot of my bed once more. Yet I no longer froze in fear or questioned its presence. Instead, I listened to the night's murmurs and pondered what tales my visitor had come to witness this time. Story 42. As the day drew to a close, the house settled into a serene hush, the only audible companion being the gentle hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. Nestled into the plush cushions of the couch, I absent-mindedly glanced at my phone, only to feel it stir with vibrations. A ring, then another, and upon seeing my own name flashing on the screen, a peculiar curiosity stirred within me, akin to noticing an unfamiliar shadow in a room I knew well. The soft amber hues of the evening light seeped through the curtains, painting delicate patterns on the polished hardwood floor. The phone continued its subtle dance of vibrations on the coffee table, casting a mesmerizing spectacle against its surface. The atmosphere seemed to shift imperceptibly, the air growing denser, more palpable. Above me, the ceiling fan whirred in a soothing rhythm, a gentle backdrop to the slowing tempo of my own heartbeat. I watched as my contact information illuminated the screen, my own image gazing back at me. When I finally mustered the courage to answer, a soft, ethereal static greeted me, reminiscent of the distant whispers of the ocean on a quiet night. The silence that followed was not devoid of sound, but brimming with intricate textures, like a tapestry of unseen whispers. Pressing the phone closer to my ear, I whispered, "Hello," into the void, my voice barely a whisper in the tranquil room. The reply, when it came, echoed my own cadence, yet felt detached from reality, like an echo from a far-off realm. Though the words were indistinct, the familiar rhythm was unmistakable. Drifting deeper into the embrace of the couch, my fingers absently tracing patterns on the fabric, I observed the warm glow of the lamp in the corner, its subtle pulsations synchronizing with each breath. Beyond the window, the moon played hide and seek with drifting clouds, casting ephemeral shadows that danced across the walls. The voice on the other end began to speak with more clarity, yet the words felt submerged, as if carried through an underwater current. Fragments of phrases surfaced, hinting at pivotal moments from my past, albeit distorted, as if seen through a fractured mirror. It spoke of decisions made, outcomes diverging from my reality. Time unfurled like honey dripping languidly from a spoon, each tick of the clock stretching into infinity. The voice narrated tales of paths untaken, choices awaiting at the crossroads of fate. Entranced, I found myself nodding in silent agreement, the room's temperature shifting imperceptibly, like a gentle caress on a spring evening. Slight tingles danced along my fingers holding the phone, the weight of a phantom wedding ring resting on my finger, a detail that puzzled my senses. As the conversation meandered, subtle alterations in my surroundings came to light. Family photos rearranged, books bearing traces of wear unaccounted for. The voice ventured into the realm of tomorrow, unveiling secrets of the impending dawn with a reverential tone, as if sharing ancient prophecies. Leaning in, I absorbed each word like a parched land welcoming rain. Outside, the wind whispered through the oak tree, a melodic accompaniment to the spectral voice on the line. The dialogue ebbed like a river finding its destined course, the voice imparting one final revelation from my childhood, a forgotten memory rekindled in an instant. And with that, the call dissipated into the velvety darkness, leaving behind a lingering warmth in my palm and a newfound memory blossoming within. In the enveloping night, I sat in contemplation, the phone's screen displaying a call duration of 47 minutes, yet my call history bore no trace of the conversation. Only the echo of a distant memory lingered, growing more vivid with each passing heartbeat. Now, as the night deepens outside the window, the refrigerator's lullaby persists, punctuated by the distant tolling of midnight. My reflection in the glass seems to lag behind, a mere fraction of a second, a subtle anomaly that may be a trick of the mind. The phone rests silent on the table, but in moments of fleeting perception, I catch a glimpse of my own visage calling out once more, beckoning from the depths of a mysterious reverie. Story 43. In the hushed embrace of the night, a distant, ethereal melody stirred the air. Nestled in my cherished armchair, draped in a cozy woolen blanket, and with a forgotten cup of chamomile tea by my side, I lifted my gaze from the book cradled in my hands. The soft notes drifted like delicate snowflakes, almost imperceptible yet undeniably present. A piano, I surmised, whispered a tune unfamiliar yet oddly nostalgic, akin to a faded memory of a long-lost dream. The house lay shrouded in darkness, save for the gentle glow of a solitary lamp casting a warm halo around me. Shadows pirouetted across the walls, dancing in synchrony with the mysterious melody. With a gentle rustle, I rose from my seat, letting the blanket cascade to the floor, and treaded softly across the wooden expanse toward the living room window. Beyond the panes, the night exhaled tranquility, bathed in the silvery luminescence of the full moon that painted the garden in mystical hues. The trees swayed in a nocturnal waltz, their dark silhouettes swaying to an unseen rhythm. The neighboring houses slumbered in obscurity, devoid of any signs of life. Yet the music persisted, an enigmatic symphony that seemed to emanate from all directions and none at once. I traversed the rooms of the house, each step a quiet echo in the stillness, tracing the elusive origin of the ever-shifting melody. In the kitchen, it whispered from the living room. In the living room, it beckoned from the stairs. On the stairs, it cascaded from the upper floor. A mesmerizing game of echoes and whispers led me on a silent ballet through the familiar corridors of my abode. Ascending to my bedroom, I noticed the slightly ajar door, a deviation from my morning recollections. Moonbeams filtered through the sheer curtains, etching intricate patterns upon the floor. The music, now crystalline and enthralling, drew me closer to its source. At the threshold, I paused, absorbing the room's ambience with intent. My antiquated music box, a relic from my grandmother, perched upon the bedside table, gleamed in the dim light. Though long believed broken, in the nocturnal hush, its miniature ballerina pirouetted gracefully, casting ephemeral shadows upon the walls. The melody resonated with the one that had lured me here, intensified as if the entire house reverberated with its enchantment. I advanced cautiously, my pulse synchronized with the haunting tune. The music box seemed to radiate a peculiar warmth, its surface almost tingling to the touch. The ballerina, once a simple porcelain form, now bore the unmistakable features of my grandmother, her visage frozen in a tender smile from my childhood. Her eyes, miniature yet piercing, met mine fleetingly, and the melody shifted, morphing into a lullaby that had cradled me in bygone days. Transfixed, I stood transfixed, enveloped in the melodic embrace, devoid of fear and suffused with a profound peace and wistfulness. The notes caressed the room, gradually ebbing like the tide receding from the shore. As the music dwindled to silence, the music box closed with a gentle click, leaving behind a silence pregnant with significance. Descending to my armchair, I retrieved the fallen blanket, cocooning myself once more in its warmth. The open book lay before me, its words a blur, as my thoughts lingered on the music box and my grandmother. How many untold melodies lay ensnared within those silent cogs awaiting the opportune moment of liberation. Since that enigmatic night, on rare occasions when the house lulls into a profound quiet and the moon bathes the garden in its ethereal light, a familiar, sweet melody drifts through the rooms. No longer do I seek its origin. Instead, I close my eyes, surrendering to its embrace. For some mysteries require no unraveling to be understood.